official beginning of the world's shittiest podcast, huh?
Apparently, this is it.
Well, welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and anything in between, because we don't really give a fuck to the Sticks and Stones podcast. My name is none of your business, and this is my co-host Dakota.
Fantastic.
A plus intro.
We get doxxed now, and this is it.
Yeah. How many people in the U.S. are named Dakota? Like
Most
7?
of them are women or dogs.
Is that true?
Yes, that's true. Even though the name is gender neutral, okay, most of them are dogs. Actually, the only Dakotas I've met personally have been dogs.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna look this up. How many people are named Dakota?
I've met
Specifically in the U.S. It's gonna be like 12. Oh my god, it's only 1,600 people.
Nice.
Jesus Christ.
That's like less than 1% of the population, I think.
Oh my god, more than 99.9% of people with their first name Dakota are female. You are literally a part of the 0.1% of people with that name in the U.S.
Hell yeah, brother.
Oh my god.
It means there are a single-digit number of people.
Oh, my name's Matthew. How many people are named Matthew? It's gonna be way higher. Now I'm upset.
Yeah. It's gonna be millions.
I'm very
probably.
upset. Oh my god, there are 247 people named Matthew for every 100,000 Americans. That means there's like 1.5 million Matthews out there in the fucking universe. That's what? Well, in the U.S. at least.
Get wrecked.
That's fucking lame. There's only like 1,000 of you, and this is racism. Calling it now. Too many people like the Bible. More people need to like the country, like the United, to just name people after states. I want to meet somebody named Wisconsin.
What's up, Wyoming? How are you?
Hey, how you doing, New York?
Oh God.
Hey, how you doing, Alaska? You chilling?
Alabama, what's up?
Is this what the bit for the entire episode is going to be? Just calling people U.S. states?
That's how we change names to people in stories. We just call them U.S. states now.
Oh my god, that'd be amazing. That could actually work.
It could work. That would be pretty good.
And so I was talking to Florida at the time.
Yeah.
But we don't even replace it when we're talking. We just edit it in post.
It's just like a beep now, but it's Florida.
It's just like redacted. Wyoming.
Yeah, a robot voice. Not even like us.
Redacted California. That'd be fucking kids.
California is an insult at this point. It's just the worst. It's just the worst state.
California, basically the entire West Coast is an insult at this point, if you really think about it.
Yeah. Well, no. Washington's fine.
Excuse you, Chaz?
Oh, yeah.
You forgot about what is it called? Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone? Is that what
Yeah, Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone.
But speaking of the West Coast, which again leads perfectly into our topic.
Segway.
Segway surfers.
Oh God, that was so bad.
That was the worst joke. I wish I had a mirror next to me so I could look at myself in shame because nobody else is going to.
Well, I would if you were here with me. I would.
No, we're fucking talking about The Last of Us 2 because we're late to the party as per fucking usual when it comes to anything. Yeah, I mean, we're like, what? How many podcasts have been made, like, by today? Like, and now we're doing one. Fuck them. I guarantee you there's at least, like, 8 being made at this moment right now.
At least, yeah.
At a very minimum. But we're also going to be talking about The Last of Us 2 because we're fucking what? Everybody was mad about it like a week and a half ago, and now nobody gives a shit.
Well, everybody's still mad about it. It's just that, like, we
it's
can't do anything.
Died down.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do. There's like, I mean, they even said they're not going to release a DLC or anything to like fix it or like add anything new. They're just going, oh yeah, that's the game. Who gives a shit? I mean, they were like flaming people on Twitter for not liking it and whatnot.
Well, of course, because, you know, the far left are all like, if you don't like it, you're a bigot and a homophobe and transphobic, and we're all like, no, the story just sucks ass.
No, the story is just it's not a good sequel game.
No.
Because in my opinion, one thing that fucking I forget who said it, but I was watching somebody talk about it, and they fucking said like it doesn't feel like the second part in the story. It feels like the third part in the story. Like the way it's structured and the way like the characters are all different and you like not similar whatsoever. It feels like the third part in the Last of Us story.
Yeah, I feel like they should have had like the second game should have been about Ellie on her own if they wanted her to run away from Joel, and then the third one
Yeah,
could have been where she comes back and then Joel gets murdered and whatever. Because I mean,
yeah,
the whole Joel death thing is also really retarded. That he should have
yeah.
gotten a better death to that.
Yeah, one thing I saw people saying was like the best parts were the flashbacks, which I entirely agree with, and I feel
Yeah.
like that should have been like the second game, or
Yes.
like it should have been the first, because like what made the first game so great was the fact that it was so fucking linear and like
Hmm.
there was no jumping all over the place or flashbacks. It was just thing happens, and the next thing in the sequence happens, and the next thing in the sequence happens, and then story is over. That's
Yeah.
like the entire game, and it's so simple. It's like 15 hours, and that's it. The gameplay is a little shit in the first game, but the story's really good because it's so just simple and well put together.
I remember I saw the Game Informer somewhere that like talked about Last of Us, and I remember
Oh
reading
wow,
it when it first came out and being like, "Holy shit, this is gonna be like an amazing game," and it was, but not for the reasons that they claimed it was going to be.
yeah, I remember like the hype building up to it was everybody like, were like, oh, this is gonna be like the next step in like zombie apocalypse games, and because everybody
Yeah.
was like wanted like the next Left 4 Dead 3 or whatever, and I was
Yeah.
like, and like everybody was like, "Oh, zombie fighting! It's gonna be like stealthy and all this." And then like the gameplay was trash. Well, it wasn't trash;
It was
just
just
wasn't great.
it got
It
like
was,
tedious after a while, but
yeah, because eventually it just became the same thing over and over again. It just like the gameplay loop was just boring because it was like,
yeah.
oh, you go to an area and then you have to crouch down and be quiet, and then you get found and then you have to shoot things, and that's like the whole gameplay loop. And you eventually get bored of that. But the thing that just made the game stand out so much was the story and just how well they delivered characters and how clever they were with stuff. Because like there really wasn't a game at that time that people loved because of the story. Like what? That was 2013, right? Last of Us came out in 2013.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was 2013. I'll double check in a minute. But like at that time, like the best, like everybody would love a video game just because of like the gameplay. When like when people were talking about Halo, they were go, "Oh, the Halo story is so great." It was always, "Yeah, the Halo games are super fucking fun." Like maybe like the Black Ops games, like Call of Duty Black Ops, people would talk about the story.
Yeah,
But
that's
at
pretty
that
much it.
time, it was that like Last of Us Two. Well, Last of Us was like the shift from gameplay being the center focus to the
In the
story
story.
being the center focus,
Yeah.
because like there wasn't a game that was like that amazing and like making you feel like you were in a movie but you were just playing a game. Like
Yes,
the only
that was like the real like innovation of The Last of Us, I think.
yeah, because like what the only other story game at that time was like the Walking Dead games, but they weren't really like video games. They were
No, they
just kind of
were
like
point
it
and
was like
click
a picture book
adventures.
that you were reading.
Yeah, I mean they were good, they were fun, but at the same time, yeah, it's only like it's not like a real game,
Yeah,
really.
and yeah, Last of Us came out June 14th, 2013. That was fucking 7 years ago. Jesus Christ, we waited 7 years for The Last of Us Part Two,
Yeah, and
and
it
this is
was
what we got.
ass.
Yeah, there was because like talking about the first game, it was just that the way that everything is so well like delivered. Like even the intro sequence just immediately gets you like put into the game. It like reminds me a lot of like the first season of The Walking Dead, if you've ever seen it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
With like the intro scene with Rick, where he's just like walking down the street and he's like in his cop uniform and like
Yeah,
all
and
the
it's
cop
like
like all the residential vehicles are like stopped at the gas station and there's nothing going on and you're like, what the fuck is this? There's nobody around here. Like everything is just dead silent. And then you see a girl and then she picks up the teddy bear, which like that is something like real quick complaint about The Walking Dead. They never bring up the fact that this zombie girl picks up a fucking teddy bear.
yeah, she's like intelligent enough to know and
Yeah,
like
like
have
they
that.
never explore a zombie having intelligence in like any other game. or like any other like season of the show. It's like that could have been interesting, but they never did because they decided to run it into the grounds for 15 seasons. But but like there's a whole thing of like he's crouching under the car and he sees the girl pick up the teddy bear and he's thinking it's a regular girl. He walks around and the girl turns around and then she like half of her fucking face is missing. And it's like, oh god, what the hell? And then she fucking has to shoot the little girl and she like collapses on the ground. And you just see him like holding the gun as it's smoking and like his hand shaking a little bit. And like instantly it just gets you roped into the show until like the second season and like every other season afterwards happens and then it's like, oh, the show's awful now.
Yeah.
But that's like the same thing with The Last of Us, like that intro scene where like you're just playing as his daughter, who's Sam, I think her name was. I think it was Sam. Some generic white girl name that they gave her because they were like, what's the easiest name that we could give her just so people can forget it, but like remember her character.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it was very interesting because it was just like, oh, you're playing as her and like she's waiting for her dad to come home, comes home and he gets the watch and like everybody's like, oh yeah, the watch. And then just like she's fucking sitting down, she like walks and then she goes to bed, wakes up, there's a fucking fire going on, and she goes to walk towards the television. Then all of a sudden a giant fucking explosion. Then her dad comes home covered in blood with a gun and is going, we need to get the fuck out of here. And she's like, what do you mean? And then their fucking neighbor bursts through the, well, there's a really small detail that they don't, like a lot of people don't talk about. Is like you hear the dog barking in the neighbor's yard, and then all of a sudden the dog just stops barking. And it's just like, oh fuck. I think the dog just got murdered.
Yeah.
And then like fucking the neighbor comes in and like bursts through the glass window and he like Joel's talking to the neighbor like, Jim, it's me, please calm down. And he's just like completely zombified and he's like completely lost his mind. And then you fucking blast him, the uncle comes, you drive through. The whole driving sequence is fucking like terrifying because you just see the highway.
That freaked me out when I first saw the game when it first came out. And I'm like, oh my god, this is really realistic.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy because it's like exactly what would happen if like the apocalypse went down. Yeah, because it's just like all the highways would be clogged up, and then like doesn't like one of the zombies like come out of like a what is it, ambulance or some shit? Like he jumps out the back of an ambulance and like starts tearing at people because like the guy on the front seat turned into one and killed the driver.
Yeah.
And like there's so much shit going on, and it's just like, oh god, it's like a whole bunch of chaos, but it's like controlled chaos in like little different areas.
Well, that's like so all that's like stuff like little beats of like storytelling and stuff. That's all based around the idea in writing that the bigger the problem is, the bigger the issue is, the smaller you focus. So by showing the little moments, they can convey the chaos, but still make it feel like organized-ish, and it's not like you can't tell what's going on, you know?
Yeah, because it's like if you had like a giant like apocalyptic event going on, like if a fucking meteor is crashing down to Earth, you're not gonna be God throwing down the meteor because that just completely detaches you from the event.
Yeah,
you're gonna be like somebody down on the ground, like looking up, just realizing, well, this is the end of the fucking planet. It's like it's like with the apocalypse going on, and like especially with the news program going on, because I don't think they're near like where the virus specifically began, but they're like aware that it exists.
Yeah.
And like the whole thing's going down, but they're like, oh, it'll probably be fine. And then everything just goes to fucking shit in like 2 seconds later, and it's like, oh, this is great. And then like you go through the car sequence, and then you're like trying to get through the town, and then like the car, does it flip? I think the car flips, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think something like it's crashing.
The car. Yeah, the car flips, and you switch perspective from the daughter into Joel, which is like who you play as for the rest of the game. And also for that car sequence when you're playing as the daughter, like the fact that you can like do a full like 360 around the car and like look at everything, like you can see the zombies chasing you in the back, and you can see them like banging against each window and like jumping in front, and it's like, oh my fucking god, because like you're completely put into like the seat of this helpless little girl that's just sitting there watching the world end around her. There's just like fires, blood, shit falling down, just everything going insane. But it's not like giant skyscrapers falling or like fucking semi trucks flipping over. It's just like a little mini sedan and like a kind of like nice bodega. Like that's all that, like all the shit that's burning and breaking. It's just like a family sedan, all this nice shit, and it's like it's clear that this is like suburbia, like because like most of the people who play video games don't live in like giant cities like New York, San Francisco, fucking LA. They live in like
Yeah,
little suburbias where it's just small houses. Like everybody's interconnected. So like the whole thing of like your neighbor getting like turning into a zombie and you having to shoot them is like really personal because some people like have good relationships with their neighbors, or even like you just like know them and you've communicated from time to time. Whereas like with a big city like burning down and crashing, it's like,
you're like,
oh,
whatever.
that could just be that could be the bus driver or it could be the pizza guy from down the street. There's like
Yeah.
no real emotional connection, but like putting it in this small area is just great. And then when you switch to Joel and you're like carrying your daughter, it also gives you like this weird sense of helplessness as the
Exactly.
daughter
So
as
you use
well.
your hands to like fight back.
Yeah.
It's just happening around you. You're booking it, trying to escape.
Yeah, now that you're the father, you're like, oh god, I got to keep this girl fucking protected because now
Yeah.
I'm scared. Because like now you're switching from being scared as the daughter to being scared as the dad to be like, I don't want my fucking daughter to die. This is awful. And like, I mean, you can tell the daughter was probably gonna die, like from
Yes.
the very beginning because she's not on the cover.
Yeah, that's
But
pretty much like a
yeah, it's like a good hint that she is gonna die. But at the same time, I was like, you could probably say like maybe she's not a natural blonde or some bullshit. And then she's like, she just grows her hair out for like the second part of the game after the apocalypse begins. But then she fucking dies, and it's like the most heartbreaking thing in the whole fucking game.
yes.
Like that scene is just so awful. It's so bad to watch, just like emotionally, because you just kind of sit there and just kind of have to like let it happen, because
Yeah.
like you're hearing Joel being like, "We're not infected. We're okay. We just want to get the safety," and then you just hear the dude going like, "Yeah, I got a kid and an adult."
Yeah,
Game
the
on site.
soldiers who were just like, "Oh, you're here. All right, time to get murdered, then, buddy. Too bad."
Yeah, and it's the worst part because like you can understand where the soldier is coming from because like
Yes.
everything's going to shit and you're just like, can't take any chances. We can't risk like somebody dying. And then like he fucking opens fire. I don't think Joel gets hit, but then Tommy comes out of nowhere and saves the
Yeah.
day and kills the soldier. But the daughter, I think her name is Sam or whatever. We're just gonna call her Sam because it's easier. And we could be entirely fucking wrong, and her name could be like Shaquandrelin or some shit. Because I
White
don't
girl named
remember.
Shaquandrelin.
Listen,
Damn.
weirder things have happened, all right? Weirder things have happened in video games and in white people, all right? I would not be shocked to find a white woman like named Shaquandrelin.
I would have a word with their family if that was the case.
I mean, the mom's not in the picture, like,
That's
which
true.
is like the mom's just not in the picture for the first game or any of the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, any of them. And I think
Yeah.
what Naughty Dog might have tried to do is try to capture that opening scene chaos with Joel's death of being like, "Oh, you're helpless. It's the apocalypse, and it's all bad."
Yeah,
But the problem is they do it too much, and they didn't do it well enough. So you just kind of
yeah,
feel
because
like, well, that's dumb.
the beginning is two opposite contrasts because it's like you play simultaneously as Ellie and then the other character of Abby.
Yeah.
And like with the beginning of that game, it makes it so confusing because you're playing as Abby and you're going, "Oh, holy fuck! There are zombies all around me. I'm getting fucking chased. I'm fucking pinned under a fence. Like, what is going on?" And then with Ellie, it's like, "Haha, weed and sex," and it's like,
Yeah.
what? This is like such a drastic contrast that it doesn't like work as well as the beginning of the first game
Yes.
because like especially after that intro sequence of the first game, you then get context of how things are working like 20 or 30 years after the apocalypse begins, because like now you're Joel, you're like 50 something years old and you get to like see it in his face. He's all drained, he's dead looking, he's got gray fucking hair, he's holding the watch on like his wrist still, but it's like completely shattered and like stuck on the time from when his daughter died, which is like really fucked up too, especially
That's
with the
like,
fact that the joke that he made to his daughter where it's like, oh, it's not working. And it's like, oh God. And then the second his daughter dies, the
like,
watch
oh
stops
no.
working. It's like, ah, Jesus fuck. And it gives you this great connection to the character. Because it's like you just feel for him in that moment because you're just like, wow, his entire world, like literally and figuratively, just got yanked out from underneath him.
Yes. Like
Like
the
the whole
5 minute
world,
period, the whole thing just got up in flames.
yeah, just
Now,
everything
like,
went to shit.
the game begins, and he's like, "All right, motherfuckers, I'm gonna kill anybody who gets in my way, and if you do,
And,
it's your own
and
fault."
and that's the reason why like unironically, I think Joel is probably like my favorite like video game character story wise
I would, yeah,
ever.
yeah. Like when the part
Because
where he like,
he's so realistic. He's just
yes,
like, this is exactly what somebody would do in the fucking apocalypse. Just stop
exactly.
giving a shit about anything. Like, fuck being nice, fuck being kind. It's like, we need to survive and got to stick with like the three people that we know we can trust. And even then, we still don't trust them entirely.
Yes, yes. When they're driving and stuff, and the guy's like, "Oh, I'm wounded. I need help," and he runs him over, and he's like, "Nah,
Exactly.
he's
It's like,
faking it. It's
and then
fine."
Ellie like goes like, "How did you know that?" And he's like, "I've done a few baits in my past." And he's like,
Yeah, he's like,
"How
"I've
many
met people
people
too."
have you killed like doing baits?" And he's like, "I prefer not to answer that question." And it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh my fucking god!" Because like
Also, like
he's a
that's
he's a badass in the worst way possible.
yes, he would be a villain in another game.
Yeah, like if this was like any other zombie apocalypse game, if this was The Walking Dead, he would be Negan.
Yes, the guy who did
He
whatever he
would
needed to survive, regardless of like
and like
morality.
preserve the people that he cared about. Which is
Yes.
why like Negan is like an interesting character, but he's so like, my name's Negan and this is like Griselda or whatever the fuck. Lucille? Is it
Yeah, the
Lucille?
bat. Yeah, Lucille.
Yeah, Lucille is the name of the bat. I forgot.
And Lucille was the
but
name
like
of his
it's just,
wife who died, and like all, it's like you named the bat after her or whatever.
yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
like
all right.
it's kind of weird, but it's the apocalypse. Who cares? I guess it works. But it's just like Negan is so like overdone, but Joel is so like realistic in the fact that he's so subdued.
Yes.
Because Negan like brags about the fact like I killed 2,000 people, but Joel's just like I don't want to talk about it.
Well, because realistically, unless you're a psychopath, you wouldn't want to talk about how many people you've
Yeah,
murdered
you
in
just
cold
be
blood.
so fucking traumatized. You're like
Yeah.
I don't want to think about it. Just stop asking questions. Let's focus on the task at hand.
Yes, exactly.
And like even in the beginning sequence as you're walking through the city, like you get to see like little things of like how things are working. Or like the government is like, and here we have a bunch of suspected fireflies, and then they just open fire on them. And then like
Yeah.
there's the one guard that's like standing outside of the door, where if you keep walking towards the door, after the third time, she just clocks you in the face and then shoots you on the ground. And
Yeah.
it's like there's so many little details that just like show you how things operate now, where it's like this is the life you live in. And then like you're going to the gate and then the fireflies blow up the gate and it's like, oh shit. Everything like is still fucked up even in the apocalypse. Like even where there's order, there's still chaos. It's like
I like how they
this is
did like the government in Last of Us for the first part anyway. With like they have like the little pockets of civilization, and then everywhere else is
yeah,
just a no man's land.
exactly. There's just little like the major cities have fucking civilization, but then there's just like really small like congregations of people that are just like trying to build society again, but everything else is just like nobody. Just empty space. Just only zombies and broken buildings and like some loot that you might be able to acquire. And like then you get to the scene with the dude with the gun running. I forgot his
Yeah.
name, like
Uh.
Lenny. It was some scumbag name,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just the generic scumbag villain name, which is like Lenny. It's Lenny. Kill him.
It's like, hey.
And then like you go through that, which is like your first experience with like well, you go through your first experience like with the dude that's like on the ground with his mask broken, and he's like, "Hey, can you shoot me? I don't want to die here." And he's just like, then you have the option of either to shoot him and be the good person or not shoot him and let him die, and then you get to conserve your ammo,
Yeah.
which is like a great way to like teach you to like preserve your ammo. And this is like how things work. Like if you want to shoot him, you can, but you won't have bullets to handle later because it's like
Yes.
totally different from every other apocalypse game where every other like first person apocalypse game will give you like you have 572 bullets, you can
Yeah.
shoot literally anything. But in this
Yeah.
game it's like you load up your gun and then you're looking in the bottom right and you're like 4 bullets, what?
Yeah.
This is all I have to work with? And it's like, yeah, this is the apocalypse, you don't get unlimited ammo, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah, I love
Is
the melee combat is like super gritty and gruesome and realistic and like
oh yeah,
brutal.
in the first game it's great.
The classic 2x4 smack across the face is like the best thing
Oh, the
ever.
fucking the what was it? Is the machete in the first game too, or some shit where you just like hack people with it? And it's like, oh my fucking god, this is awful. Like it's just
Yeah.
so like the melee combat is so good, and I think they definitely got took most of that from like Uncharted 2, in Uncharted 3, because like that was the fun part of Uncharted 2 and 3 was like you get to jump down and they like punch somebody in the face and be like, oh shit, they're fucking dead. Just fucking sucker punched a soldier right in his goddamn jaw, and now he's just gone.
Yeah,
And
no,
like
that's it.
yeah, and like the environmental like melee kills were always super fun,
Yeah.
where like you could just like drop somebody over a desk and like smack their face into it, or just like break their neck against the wall. It was like using your shoulder or some shit. It was like,
Well, there
oh
was
my
like
god.
the classic cutscene from Last of Us, where like the one like scavenger or whatever tries to slam Joel's face on a like shard of glass from like an old
Oh
window.
yeah, and
You
then
have to fight
Ellie like
against him.
grabs the knife.
Yeah, yeah.
And like Ellie stabs him in the back, and he just grabs it and just fucking throws it in his face. And it's like, oh my god, there's so much fucked up shit. And then like you get to the gun running dude, like after you go through like your first zombie experience, like conserving ammo and your first gunfight, and then you get to him, and he's like, listen, 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 keep me alive, and then we can work together. We can split the guns together. And then like Joel and Laura, what's her name? His friend in the first.
Yeah, the like Firefly chick.
No. She wasn't a Firefly
Oh, no,
chick.
she
She
was like
lived
his
with him in the
friend.
city.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well she knew of the Firefly. She knew
Yeah.
Melanie or Michonne, whatever her name is. The fact
Yeah.
we should probably know the names of the characters if we're gonna talk about this.
It's a 7-year-old game at this point, so like.
True,
You
but
know.
I really have no excuse because I finished it like a month before The Last of Us 2 came out. I replayed it on like a harder difficulty because I was like, oh, I want to see this before the new game comes out, and I don't remember like 90% of the characters' names because they're just their names aren't really important. It's really the effect that they had on you in the story.
Yeah.
Like but like Joel and like Laura or whatever look at each other, and then they just fucking blast the gun running dude in the face because now they know the location of the guns, and then they just leave. And it's like, all right, this is how you do like an apocalypse. This is like the most realistic interpretation of the apocalypse
Oh yeah,
that's
for sure.
ever occurred in a game.
Like Mad Max? Nah, forget about Mad Max, dog. We got Last of Us. That's so
Mad
funny,
Max
dude.
is not realistic in the slightest.
Mad Max is like, but it's so good. Not because it's realistic, but because it's just like this is Australia every day.
It's just so entertaining. It's just Mad Max is just entertaining. Where like Last of Us is just like the most realistic you'll probably get to an apocalypse.
Probably.
Because I don't think anything else is like replicated that. Like what an apocalypse would be like.
Because there are many apocalyptic games now. Well, there was Days Gone, and that was all right.
Yeah, Days Gone is all right. I just started playing the Metro games, if you know those.
They're really
I just started
good.
to fuck around. Yeah, the first one's a lot of fun, but it also suffers from the issue of like giving you a shitload of ammo. Where like they just give you a shitload of ammo.
Fix that stuff. I've seen. I saw, like the new. I saw like the newest like couple games. I watched them all the way through.
Metro Exodus?
Yeah, Exodus was like the newest one, and the one before that I watched it
like Last Light.
Yeah, Last Light. They were both.
I'm playing Last Light right now, so.
It's just like I think that's what I would imagine, like Russia, like an apocalypse for Russia to be like. It's pretty realistic.
It is, yeah. Metro is very realistic, but they kind of get a cop out because they're based on books. At least I think the first game is based on a book. Like the first and like parts of the second game is based on a book.
Yes.
But I'm only on the second game right now, and like I mainly love the way that they just like it's very accurate in like the human like relation aspect.
Yeah,
but everything else is kind of like blown up. Yeah, everything else is like kind of blown up apocalypse wise. Yeah. Like the mutation beasts and stuff where I'm like the librarian, and it's like that's just a gorilla. You just took a gorilla and shaved its fur off. Like, all right, buddy.
Well, there are like the game has really deep lore. If you read the books or whatever. The third game, Exodus, that came out alongside the novelization. I'm pretty sure. So like they were like doing both at the same time and writing them side by side. I don't know what the similarities are because I never read the books, but the game is pretty good. And, like the lore behind it's very interesting.
The lore behind the games is like the story in like the first game, because I only completed the first game so far. I'm like I think 25% through the second game, like so far. But the story of like Artyom and like him being like the only person that can communicate with the Dark Ones is like kind of interesting.
It's still kind of weird because they're still like psychic mutants or whatever, but.
Yeah, where like they're the Dark Ones are like the next step in like human evolution is what they say in the first game, and it's like, huh? All right, fuck it, for story's sake, if this what gets me through it, let's do it. Let's just fucking go. But then it's just like it like in the Metro Last Light, they're like implying that like the Dark Ones like saved Artyom from like dying one time, and they're like, "Hey,
Yeah,
you're special. Now you can talk to us." And it's like, what? It's like everything else in this game is like perfectly logical and makes sense and
except
like
for
is like
that.
really realistic. But then the Dark Ones come in and it's like, sure, you guys like the Jedi or some shit? Like, what the fuck
Yeah.
is this? It's like it's
Anakin
like
over here.
you're introducing like telepathy and like fucking telekinesis into this shit, and it's like you have fucking spiders that are affected by like UV light and shit, and like all the other stuff is like
Yeah.
really realistic. Like some of the mutations
Exodus
make
is
sense.
like it doesn't have any of that like whack like telepathy or anything. But this is more about like it's basically like an exploration of the world and less about the characters, whereas the first two games are about the characters.
Yeah, because that's what makes like the second game interesting. Because like right now, I'm in like the Nazi segment of the game, which for
Yeah, the
some reason the
Nazis.
Nazis are still active.
Yeah,
Don't.
in Russia.
First of all, yeah, Nazis is not a clip you want out there in the universe.
Look, all right. Okay. This is my thing with the Nazis. All right. I
Oh,
I
this is gonna get taken out of context, and you're gonna get expelled.
oh yeah. The Nazis are just like the most cliched, obvious villains ever written, or ever to
Yeah,
exist, and that's why I love them because they're so stereotypical villains that like you just can't help but hate them. And
yeah. I
even
find the
if you have
Nazis
no
like
context for their
hilarious.
existence, you just hate them no matter what. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
Nazis, nah.
the Nazis are like hilarious to me because they're so obviously bad guys, and like
Yes.
everything about like the second you start like reading into like shit about the Nazis, you're like, why did anybody buy into this?
Yo, this is
Like,
so obviously like a
how
movie
much of an
villain.
how much of an idiot do you have to be this racist? Like
Yes.
this is like there's
Yes.
like the Ku Klux Klan, and then there's like Nazis 20 levels up if it's like a building. Like the Ku
Yeah.
Klux Klan is like the 10th floor where it's like, all right, that's really bad racism. Like level 8 is like Karens that like say go back to your country. And then
Yeah.
like level 4 is like somebody that asks black people, are you into do you like hip hop? And it's like, okay. Like that's like entry level racism, and then it's
Yeah.
like then there's Karens, then there's like the Ku Klux Klan, and 20 floors up is the fucking Nazis because they're just so ridiculous. Like
Yes.
when you read into them, there's like shit of them like trying to build the first jetpacks and shit, and it's like
Yeah.
what? And
The
then Hitler was
Wunderwaffes.
on speed, and it's like,
Yeah.
huh?
And they invented meth.
Yeah,
And let their
and
soldiers march for
fucking
like days straight without stopping or whatever. Like,
yeah,
damn.
and then there was the shit like the reason that Italy was still in World War II, like Mussolini was like, I want to back out. But then Hitler went on a rant for 4 hours straight telling
Yeah.
Mussolini like why he shouldn't leave because he was so cracked out on speed. It's like, oh my fucking God. And then there's the shit of them trying to make the perfect human by letting
Yeah.
gorillas fuck German men, like German women. And it's like,
Yeah,
what?
like they're like
Huh?
they're like, oh, we're gonna find the Holy Grail. We're gonna find the Ark of the Covenant, and all this stuff to
Yeah, and
prove
that's
that
why
like
they
we're the
stole all those
epic
fucking
race or whatever.
artifacts.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, what?
It's like, oh, if we take all the artifacts and like find secret clues, we can find the Holy Grail. And it's like, bro, what?
Yeah, they believe that like God was on their side, and if they found all that stuff, that He would make them win the war, even though they're all atheists.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like, huh? And then like Hitler like literally stole like 90% of their language from other cultures that of brown people. It's like the swastika is from Buddhism.
yeah,
The name Aryan is from Hinduism, I believe, right?
yes,
Aryan.
yeah, I think
And then
so.
the word Nazi is also just a combination of National Socialist, which was like an
Yeah,
ideology that appeared long before Hitler started taking it. And it's like this man just like did the first like copyright claim on everything.
yeah.
Like seriously, I can't wait for like fucking Buddha to come down and be like copyright strike on your fucking movement.
Yeah.
Like it's so fucking ridiculous. Like the Nazis are just ultimately ridiculous, and like in
Yes.
that game, they're equally as ridiculous in Metro.
Yeah,
But
because
it's like
it's like the apocalypse is like we're still the superior, and you're like you're with the
it's
rest of
like
us, man.
we're all dying, and you're just like we want to rule the train stations, and it's like what? There's like 8.
Yeah,
There's
like calm
literally
down.
8. We can all live in base. Just what are you doing?
Then there's like the nuclear silo subway station that they're all fighting over, like DS9 or
Yeah, the
whatever.
D6, and it's like,
Yeah,
what?
like we
And then
need
there's
to
like the
capture this
fucking
nuke.
communists and shit. It's like,
Yeah.
what? Why? Why? Like, it's like definitely something that would happen in real life, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
also just like, are you stupid? Just like, shut up.
Yeah, Exodus. I
So,
liked Exodus because it talked about like you see more of the surface. You get to learn more what happened when the bombs fell and everything, and it's pretty messed up. Like do you care about me spoiling parts of like the lore of the world or no?
I do care because
All
I'm
right.
very, because fucking, I played the first Metro game and I was like a solid 8 out of 10, so I'm excited to see what the other two do.
Exodus is really different from Last Light. It's still good, but like for
Yeah.
different reasons.
Oh yeah, because it was like what, like 6 years between the two games, almost as
Yeah,
big as like Last of Us.
I think so. Yeah.
And plus, still like Metro is still like a fucking underrated game series. Like not a lot of people talk about Metro that often. Like
No,
the
but
only
it's so
times I saw
good.
people talking about it was when Exodus came out.
Yeah, Exodus and then but Exodus got a lot of like press recognition, and then
Yeah,
Last
it
Light
was
didn't.
fucking everywhere. I remember just
Yeah.
watching gaming channels, and then everybody was like, "This episode is sponsored by Microsoft for Metro Exodus," and it's like, "What the fuck is this? I've never heard of this shit. What is this?"
You're like, oh, that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
Like apocalypse, and, like zombie mutant people, and the weird spiders and stuff, and like
Oh, the spiders are the fucking creepiest thing. I hate
they're
them so
oh
much.
god, I hate them. They're so like
Just
the cobwebs. You gotta like you
just
walk
the
through a web.
fucking where you gotta fucking pull out your lighter and you can't like
Yes.
aim down scope with your fucking gun because you have the
Hmm.
lighter in the other hand, and it's like, stop it.
Yeah,
This
like
is
in
awful. And like you have to look at them with your flashlight, and if they're like
yes.
just out of view, they'll start charging at you, and you're like, stop, no, please. You're like fucking flicking back and forth, and you like have to back up against a wall in order to survive. It's like, man, fuck this. This ain't fun.
I think then like in one, I think it's Last Light, and I put it in Exodus. And probably Last Light too. If you walk through a cobweb, like a spider will crawl across your gas mask and stuff, and
Yeah,
I'm just like, no, go
it does
away.
that in Last Fight. It's like, stop it, no. It's worse. Like it's worse because like there's so many like little minor upgrades from like the Metro 2033 to Last Light, and it's like stuff that you wouldn't really notice unless you like played the first game, because it's
Yeah.
like they still like have the same HUD, they have the same voice actors, they have like mostly like the same models, like everything looks cleaner because they got like a higher budget and stuff. But there's just like little small details like that where it's just like the bug, like in the first game it would like flies would like land on your mask or something, and like maybe you'd
Yeah.
get some blood and some shit. But like I never really found myself using like the wiping mechanic, but now I'm in the fucking second game, and every 2 seconds I'm outside, I'm like wiping my face. I'm like, why is there so much goo on my face?
Yeah. Yeah,
Why
like
is there
the
so much green goo? It's like, this is awful.
I mean
It's
it's
so
realistic.
gross and nasty.
Yeah, it's just well, it's realistic, but also like you gotta realize like in the apocalypse, like the world is not maintained anymore. Shit's gonna be nasty
Yeah,
forever.
it's
Like I
like
wouldn't be
all the
crawling
egg
up
sacs
like
and shit.
oh god. No, like I wouldn't
Uh,
be going into like pipes or like
No,
no,
no, no, no, no,
never. No,
no.
like in
The
the
only like those like Last of Us and like fucking Metro just makes you realize that if the apocalypse happened, like I'm just gonna blow my brains out. Like I can't do
yes.
this.
That's my
I can't
thing. Like
handle
if the
this.
world ends, I don't want to be the person that survives the nuclear abominations. I want to be the one who gets
No,
killed
no, 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 no,
first.
no, no. I
Yeah.
don't want to be the leader of any organization. I don't want to be involved. Like fucking if the Fireflies came around and were like, "Hey, we got a community where like other people do everything. You just got to farm." I'll be like, "Hell yes! If you just
Yeah.
need me to farm and like give me a gun to protect myself, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm
like
all right.
I'll
I
be
don't
a
need to be
teacher if you
brave."
want me to, man. I'll do whatever, but don't put me outside
Bro,
these
if you
walls.
need a town prostitute,
Yeah.
I'm down. Like, listen, as long as I got a bed to sleep in at night, even if there's somebody else in it that I don't know, I'm all right with it. Like,
You're
I don't care.
making that
Like,
dollar
I
dollar
can't
bill.
survive. Yeah, I don't even need money. Just food and a place to sleep. That's all I want.
Yeah,
That's all I
honestly.
need.
Like
Because I'm like, I can't be Joel, like going out and doing shit. I
no.
would die. I know I would die because I
Yes.
know I'm not smart enough to like build bombs. Like I
Yeah.
can't do that. I can barely handle making myself lunch. You want me to like
Yes.
make weapons and survive?
Exactly.
Like,
Like, I know how to do that stuff and everything, but my thing is like if okay, my process is always like if the world ever ended, I would be a bandit.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I would kill whoever I saw first, cover myself in their entrails, and then I'd be like, all right, now don't fuck with me. Then I live in peace because you're too afraid to come by my house, then that's fine. Then I can deal with that. But like to
But
be
then you
like,
wouldn't be able to handle the zombies because they'd be like, "Ooh, blood! He's covered in it. Let's fucking
yeah,
get him."
yeah,
Because see, the worst part is like we're total opposites. Because everybody would look at me to be like, "Oh, you need to be the leader guy,"
yeah,
because I'm 6'3" and I got a deep voice, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna be leader. I'm gonna be fucking loading a gun to point at my head." Like I'm just like, I
yeah,
can't do this. What do you
yeah.
expect?
I'm the one
Like,
who's like, all
bro.
right, you over there, come here and cut your head off for fun today. What do you want?
And they're just gonna look at you and be like, "No," and then they're just gonna push you down a well.
Yeah,
They're gonna shove you down a well that's filled with zombies. Because you're just like, "Shut up, white boy."
yeah. Oh
Just
god.
like I know I could never survive the apocalypse. Like if I ever got bit, I'm like,
Oh
nah.
yeah,
I'm
for
not.
sure.
I'm not cutting off my arm. I'm not
Oh,
holding out for a cure. It's over. Like
yep.
it's over. I'm. If there's no gun, I'm just bashing my head against the nearest wall.
Yeah, I'm like climbing to attack under a rooftop, the highest point, jumping off, shooting
Yeah.
myself, whatever.
Yeah, just like nah, I'm good, bro. I can't do that. I can't do it. I won't survive. Like the fucking like the scene and like the fucking Walking Dead where they're like, "Oh no, he got bit. Let's cut off his arm so he can survive." I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I can't do
But
that.
you realize, like, if you lose an arm, the massive crippling and this like disability that is for somebody to survive in the
Yeah,
apocalypse.
and then mentally, like that just will like
Yes.
fuck with you for the rest of your life.
Yes.
It's just like you'll just constantly like you'll go to reach for a water bottle and then you're just like, oh,
Oh yeah.
never
Fuck
mind.
my forearm is gone.
Yeah,
Right.
and then there's like the phantom pain shit where like you always
Yeah.
feel like the pain that was on that arm for the rest of your life. It's like, oh, I can never do it. Like I like my
Oh.
arms, I like my
Yes.
legs, I like my eyes, I like everything. I don't want to lose it.
Yeah. Keep
But
me
then,
keep
like,
me in one piece or just kill me outright. I don't really,
yeah,
all
and
or
there's like,
nothing.
let me be able to keep the casket open. Like that's all I want.
Yes.
Because I know if I lose an arm, I'm not gonna survive as well. So what's the point? You're like,
Yeah.
yay, I'm alive, but I can't shoot anything but pistols.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like, thanks,
Yeah.
man.
And I
Now
can't
I
lift
can
anything
only shoot this
wider than like
revolver.
me. Yeah. Like. I, I can
Wait,
do
you
it.
couldn't even be able to shoot a revolver. You need two hands to shoot a revolver because the kickback will throw the gun out of your hand. You're
Yes.
stuck to like Glocks. You're
Yeah.
screwed.
You be stuck with like 9 millimeters and maximum 45 caliber.
Exactly. Like you'd just be the melee guy, but you wouldn't even
Yeah.
be a good melee
And
guy
then one
because you don't
hand.
have anything to block. You're throwing around like ball peen hammers. Like that's all you got, man.
And a kitchen
You
knife
got
over
ball peen
here.
hammers and like butter knives. That's all you get.
Oh god. That's what like
But
Mad
yeah,
Max, where, like all the war boys are all like horribly mutated and like filled with cancer and stuff. I'm like they'd move. Like
yeah,
they'd just
they'd
be
be
dead.
bedridden. They like
Yeah.
they couldn't fucking survive.
Oh.
And like they're spraying shit down their face, like witness me. It's like, bro, you'd be dead. Like
Yeah.
fucking taking in like fucking the silver spray paint that fucking
Yes.
often, you get serious brain damage and like not be able to walk.
Yeah, you would have like lung disease
Yeah,
immediately.
you're not jumping from like car to car, fucking
No.
throwing hands with people. You're just dead. Like I mean, maybe Furiosa would be all right because she's got like the fucking robot arm or whatever the
Yeah.
hell. But like, who? No, the workers would be fucking stupid.
They
They'd
would
be
be
they'd be dead in an instant.
yes. They all
Like
would
a
be.
more Yeah,
Morton
and it's like the
Joe.
fact
Oh
the
god.
fact that a Morton Joe wasn't killed before that movie, I find
Yeah.
entirely bullshit. Somebody would have like accidentally tripped and knocked out one of his tubes, and he'd be like, "Oh, oh,
Yeah.
oh!" Like he'd be dead.
Like, wait, aren't you a god, sir? You can survive this. He's like, help me, and he just dies, and you're like, well, damn.
It's just like, tell my many wives I didn't love them, and that's all he has to say.
Yeah, basically. God, the whole like, yeah. I watched a video. It's like villains who couldn't survive like in the real world. It's Morton was like Mad Max was one of them, and it's like yeah because
Mhm.
like his kids are all horribly disfigured and could never lead. He is like dying on a daily basis. His wives hate him enough to kill him, which is a bad sign. Just putting it out there. If your concubine is going to murder you, I would,
That's not a
you
very
know,
good concubine.
yes, like I would kind of like lean off on the abuse if they're trying to kill you on a daily basis. Like, come
Yeah,
on,
if you're
man.
like if you have to trap them in a room and put chastity belts, like you're not doing a good job, buddy. Like you're a
Yeah.
very bad dictator. You're a very bad apocalyptic leader.
Yes,
Like,
you
at
have
least
charisma.
Negan, people wanted to have sex with him. Like
Yeah.
who wants to have sex with like a Morton Joe? Like who's looking at him and going like, "Now that guy,
Yeah.
I bet you he's packing."
Yeah,
It's
I
like
think I
no.
think I think the sand would repel him if he tried to fuck the sand. To be honest, like,
he takes his pants down and like the entire ground just shoots back 300 feet, and he's
like,
like
oh
standing
god.
on dirt and soil. It's like, oh no.
Well, we can farm on this land now, but we can't get any.
It's like the fucking marshlands that you see later in the movie.
Yeah. Oh, that the whole thing with like he's like, okay, my wives have escaped, but with a strange man and one of my generals. Let's get my entire army and all of my allies to go and fuck him up, and then I'll get stuck in the fucking mud immediately.
Yeah,
Like, bro, come on.
I can't believe like they never factored in like mud. That's something we should factor in for our stuff. It's like,
Yes.
huh? You've never thought to bring mud, like
Like,
all-terrain vehicles? You were just
yeah,
like, you know what's good? This little mini ATV with like Tesla tires, where it'll
yeah,
fucking pop if it's like above 95 degrees.
yes. Like the gunmonger or whatever, bulletmonger or whatever, the
Oh yeah.
tank car. He's the only intelligent one. His car is all terrain and it has like a bajillion guns on it. Unfortunately, he wastes ammunition like it's just like for free, which it's not. It's the apocalypse. I guess like you make bullets for a living, but I mean, come on.
You only have a limited supply that you can carry
Yeah,
with you, like
like
before the fucking car sinks into the mud. So it's like, what are you doing?
yeah, and then like they blind him with the spotlight thing, and he's like, "Oh, I'm still gonna kill you," and just wildly spraying into the distance. I'm like, dude, you could kill like all of your companions with that.
Mad Max. I gotta watch Fury Road again. I remember watching it and having a lot of fun,
Yeah, it's a
but I
really
haven't
good
watched it
movie.
since.
Villains just make no sense.
Oh yeah.
And Max himself makes no sense too. He's like, at the end of the movie, he could have led that like faction by himself, and he's like, no, I must be a loner and be edgy in the distance.
Well, that's the thing with the movie. It's like it's not even about Max. Max is
No,
basically a secondary character. The whole movie is about Furiosa.
yeah,
Which is like the weird thing that it's called Mad Max Fury Road, and there's not even like is anything called Fury Road in that fucking movie?
no, there are no
Yeah, and so
roads.
it's
It's just
like
desert.
it's just like why is this called Fury Road? There's nothing. I get it, it's a cool title, but there's no
Yeah,
point to it. You could have just called it Mad Max Furiosa, and that would have
yeah,
made more sense. Because like that's what they did in Thunderdome, right? Was it
yeah,
Thunderdome?
yeah.
Where
It was
like the
Thunderdome.
the kid there like turns out to be like the next leader or some bullshit like that. I haven't watched that movie in fucking forever, so I don't know.
Same.
But they did something similar to that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the end when it comes to Mad Max, right? I think Fury Road, like George Miller or whatever the fuck, was like, yeah, I'm not doing another Mad Max movie, and that's it.
They were talking about making another one with a different director or whatever.
But George Miller is like the guy that's been doing it since the very
Yeah.
beginning, since like the fucking late '70s. Where
Yes.
like the first Mad Max is so slow and fucking boring, and then
Yeah.
like, yay, car chase for 3 minutes. Oh god,
Yeah.
and
And
then
then
you have to
like,
go through 17 minutes of nothing, and then more car chase for 2.5 minutes. And it's like,
yeah.
oh god.
I think of Fury Road, that the one good thing that came out of that film, besides like being some badass action movie, was the blind guitar guy.
Oh yeah.
He's like,
What's his fucking name? Oh god,
I
he
don't
has a
know.
name.
Yeah, he has a name. I forget what it is though.
I'm gonna look it up real quick because it's gonna annoy me. I don't give a shit about the Last of Us characters. I just want to know what that guy's name is.
Doesn't matter anymore.
Car dude, Fury Road. Let's see, what do I get? Who's the guitar guy? Oh, it's apparently a popular Australian musician.
Really?
Yeah,
You got an actual musician to play that dude? Wow, I'm kind of.
I mean that's honestly fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty. That's pretty cool.
Oh, okay. So according to production notes, he's called the Doof Warrior,
Oh yeah.
which is the worst name ever.
Yes.
And he is done by a musician by the name of Iota,
Hmm. Did a pretty
which
good
is
job.
yeah. I mean, fucking, he played a blind musician well, I guess. Like,
Well, I
fucking,
mean,
what, what
yeah,
what compliment did he give him? He played guitar, and then he jumped on things cool, and then he died.
yeah. Then he got killed.
Yeah, he got deaded. And that's really the end of the movie.
Pretty much, yeah. He's around for a pretty long time compared to like the other war boys who get raffle stomped immediately.
You get caught in like the red storm or whatever the fuck it was
Yeah,
called.
the sandstorm, with the crazy sandstorm. Well, they drove
Yeah.
into that too. They're like, you know what? Let's follow them into this crazy tornado, and we're like, you idiots.
Yeah, that beginning scene is like fucking crazy. Where
Oh,
he's like,
man.
where Mad Max is chained up and he's just like baring his teeth at the fucking sandstorm, and he's like, "Get me the fuck out of here."
Yeah, he's just like, I do not want to be here anymore. Because like in real life, like sandstorms can tear flesh from bone. So like
Yeah,
that will be horribly painful.
yeah. And then like the fact that they're like pumping blood out of his system into the war boys, it's like, would this work in real life with you jumping around so fucking much? Would blood actually be going into your system, or would you just be fucking dead? Because
Like,
the fact like they're all jumping around and running around the fucking cars, like I
yeah,
feel like the tube would come tearing out of your arm.
yes, yes. For like, I mean, this is like an IV in your forearm. You're driving a car, like I don't know if you have ever had like an IV in your arm before, but bending your arm at
I've had
all
one
hurts.
yeah, oh yeah, it's impossible. You can't do
Like,
it.
what are these kids just like unfeeling or something? They can like hop around and
Yeah.
drive a car at like top speed.
Yeah, they're all like fucking 14, 16 years old. They're all like fucking children. And like they're not even like cracked out or anything. So
No,
it's
or
like
just
what is going on?
yeah,
It's
just
so odd.
yes. The whole concept of them. I mean, it could be better, but
I think it's mainly just to be like, what's the stupidest thing we could put in this movie and somehow still make it entertaining? The movie
yeah,
is what Mad Max is. Because
pretty
it's like, all
much.
right, let's put a lady with one arm, a bunch of models, a bunch of kids with cancer, and Mad Max has PTSD flashbacks. It's like, what?
Yeah,
Why is Max having PTSD flashbacks? Like, what is going on here?
yeah. No,
Like that's something that they don't talk about for the entire fucking movie. Is
oh
like he has PTSD flashbacks in the beginning, and then they never bring it up again.
yeah. Because
It's just
like
like he's just
in
like,
the other movies, he had that because he was around when the apocalypse started, so he remembers all of that stuff. Like his like family got killed or whatever. But
mhm.
in the Fury Road, he barely talks at all. So we
Yeah,
don't know any of
and it
that.
also doesn't. It's also like been 20 years since the last movie, so like you
Yeah,
really expect people to remember the fact that he like had a family. Like everybody's just like, oh yeah, he's a man in the apocalypse.
he's
Like
mad, and his name's Max.
everybody saw Mad Max because they were like, oh yeah, isn't there some like bullshit 80s movie about that? Like, hold on, I'll watch it. And then everybody saw it and was like, the action's spectacular. And then the movie like got an award or some bullshit.
Yeah,
And then everybody was like, go watch it. It's like, okay. And they did.
yeah, pretty much.
What were we talking about? We were talking about something important
Last
before
of
Mad
Us.
Max.
Last of Us.
Last of Us. So yeah, I guess well the whole thing about The Last of Us, the ending of it is what really made people go fucking
Yes,
nuts.
that's so dumb.
That's probably my favorite ending in entertainment history, and I know that's like a lot of things that like people hate is the ending of Last of Us,
Yeah,
but it's probably my favorite ending in like books, TVs, movie, anything, because it's the perfect way to just end it. Like if they never made another Last of Us game, I would have been perfectly happy
yes. The first
because it
game
didn't need it.
could have been left as like a standalone thing.
It didn't need any other DLC. It
Oh,
didn't need like anything. It was just like this is it. Because for the few people that don't know, the story of The Last of Us is Joel's daughter dies and he has to transport this new young little girl that's apparently immune to the virus and is just completely just like the possibility of making a vaccine is there with this little girl. And he has to transport her from what is it, Washington D.C. to Seattle, like literally across the country. I think that's the fucking distance they have to cover. And so like that's the whole story of the game is like their relationship building and how they go from just being two complete strangers to basically father and daughter. And then the ending of the game is that they have to kill the young girl named Ellie, and then it turns out they have to kill her in order to make the virus, the antivirus, the vaccine, the antidote, whatever they fucking call it. But there's only a chance of it actually curing her, like the fucking thing. Like, or they mentioned like there's a 1 in 3 chance that this could actually cure shit.
Yeah.
And so Joel decides, fuck it, I'm not letting my daughter die again, and then kills an entire hospital filled of like these revolutionary guys that are called the Fireflies, and kills a room full of scientists that are operating on his some like surrogate daughter, and then takes her and doesn't tell her what he did. And that's the end of The Last of Us, which is probably my favorite ending ever because of how fucking selfish Joel is.
Yes.
And because it makes perfect sense, because that's exactly what a person would do in that scenario.
For sure.
Where you've gone through the pain of literally watching your daughter die in your arms, where you couldn't do anything to protect her. Like the beginning of the game is literally, you couldn't do anything to save her. There's nothing you can do. You just have to sit there and watch your daughter die in your arms. But with the ending of the first game, he has the chance to save her, and so he fucking takes it like any person would. Because he wouldn't want to go through that pain again, even for the opportunity of like saving the world. Because anybody that says that they would fucking be like, no, I would let my daughter die in order to save the planet. No, fuck that.
Yeah.
No, you fucking wouldn't.
Nobody.
I sure as hell wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
If it was like my fucking mother on that table, I'd be like, nah, I'm fucking saving her. Like, there's no chance in hell that like anybody that I have that close of a bond with, whether just family wise or like otherwise, is just like, no, I would fucking save them in an instant.
Yeah, so you figure, like, Joel killed people to save this girl. Oh, no, it's gonna be all for nothing?
Yeah, like literally, he kills, like, half the fucking country in order to, like, get this girl here. Then he goes there, and they're like, oh, she's gotta die. And he's like, what?
Yeah, it's like
that's basically his reaction.
Yeah. I think anybody would have that reaction, realistic.
Yeah. It's just, like, because like a lot of people would say like, no, I'd do the heroic thing, I would let her die and then just live in depression for the rest of my life for the hopes of a cure. But then there's also like, okay, yeah, you would let her die, but what if they're like, so she's dead and there's no vaccine? So it's just like, oh, she died for literally no reason, thanks, man. It's like, oh, it's so stupid that people say that shit. They're like, oh, I don't like Joel because he made that selfish choice, or oh, I don't like the game because they made me make that choice. And it's like,
yeah, but like, people are selfish in real life, you idiot. Like, what do you think's gonna bloody happen?
It's so fucking dumb because people will say like, oh, it doesn't make sense. The game should have given me the option to be like, oh, I don't want to save her. It's like, no, this is not the Walking Dead series. This isn't a Telltale game where you get to choose the ending. The whole point of this game it's not your story, it's Joel's story.
Yes.
That's the whole point of the game. This is Joel's experience. This is Joel's little like 4-month adventure with this young girl named Ellie. And like there's so many like cool sequences, like Ellie sequence with the cannibal camp.
Yeah.
Like that shit's great. The fucking a little metro place you go through, like the little subway station you go through before you end up at the hospital, where like you meet like a bunch of the boomers, I think they're called, if you remember. Or is that? Yeah. No, wait, Boomer is from fucking Left 4 Dead 2. I'm like, wait, that's not the name.
There's the school part where you fight like the
giant, like, the school thing. The first time, that shit's crazy.
That's pretty. Oh, that's like one of my favorite parts of the game. I also like, I think it's in the beginning where they go through like they're like driving the giant highway full of like shot up cars. And he's like, oh, what happened? And Joel's like, oh, the military did this. And she's like, what? And he's like, yeah, they just went through and killed everybody in the cars on the highways. And they found like the garage
it's even
full
more
of corpses.
Fucked up because Ellie came from the military compounds, and so she's like, wait, they did this? Like, I live by here. Like, do you think this was the military that like I know? And he's like, probably.
You know, and then like they go through like the houses, and they found like the giant garage full of corpses. And I was like, oh my god. And Joel's like, oh, I did this too. And she's like, what? He's like, yeah, man.
It's crazy. The first game is just absolutely spectacular with like the way that it's so. the way that it's just like so straightforward with everything and not like there's no subtlety to the game. Like there is
Yes.
some subtlety, but the subtlety is so obvious that it's like, oh yeah, I get this, but you still hit me with it. Where it's like,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah.
it's still effective, even though it's obvious what they're doing. Where there's the brief sequence where you meet the two black kids,
Mm.
if you remember them, where like the one kid is like Ellie's age and the other kid is like older. He's like 20, like in his mid 20s or whatever, and he is like wanting to go search for like the fireflies. And Joel's like, "Listen, kid, I've been here for a long ass time. The fireflies aren't going to solve anything." And he's like, "No, no, no, but we still have to have hope. Like we have to have hope in order that like the fireflies can do something." And like the whole like point of that is like the contrast between Joel and Ellie and these two black kids, because the older black kid is meant to be the opposite of Joel, because
Joel.
Joel is just like, fuck hope, there's no point in living, this is all stupid. I'm just getting this dumb, stupid white girl to fucking Seattle for some reason. I don't know why. This is stupid. And
Seattle,
then
the Chaz. This is all about the Chaz. It's all come full
it's
circle.
all about Chaz. The Last of
Oh.
Us predicted the 2020 year. That's fucking poetic.
Oh
But and then
god.
the younger black kid is meant to be like the opposite of Ellie, because he
Mm.
gets bit, but he gets infected. Where
Yeah.
Ellie has already gotten bit and she
Understand.
hasn't been infected because she's immune. And so it's meant to be the opposite of like, no, we still have to be hopeful and we still have to like hope for a change. And then the younger kid turns into a zombie after he got bit, and then the black kid has to shoot his younger brother, and then that's supposed to be like the metaphorical like death of hope, and that how this world there is no hope.
Yeah.
Like even if Ellie became like a cure or anything, there's no point
You
because
figure
everybody's
like
just there's no point left.
if the government is going around massacring people who try to leave like the cities and whatever, like even if they got a vaccine, they would hoard it for themselves. Like
Exactly.
it
They
wouldn't
would
matter.
like the government would hoard it, the Fireflies would hoard it for themselves. Like every organization, like it's great how the game shows that like literally everybody is a selfish prick.
Yeah.
So just let Joel make this selfish decision. Because like that's like pretty much the only selfish decision we watch him do like the whole game is
Pretty
that
much.
final decision.
Yeah.
Where like everything else, he's just like doing it for Ellie. He's like getting her to this place. He's like saving her life. He's like teaching her how to shoot, giving her guns, giving her ammo, like teaching her how to do everything. It's like the entire game he's being selfless. Then at the very end, he's just like, I got to do something for myself, and he just finally does it. And it's like it's a great little poetic wrap up. And then like in my perfect world, the game would have ended right there. Ellie never finds out. Joel never tells her, and then they just like live in the apocalypse happily ever after, and that's just the end of the
Yep.
games.
And then the second game came along, and the ending of the second game
And then
was
they
AIDS.
fucking ruined it.
Yes. And then they just went. Remember all that hopefulness and all like the nice happy ending. Yeah. Fuck that ending. And just like
Yeah,
it's all
fuck.
evil and
Yeah,
bad now.
it's even crazy because one thing that I don't see people talk about is like how they literally say "fuck you" to the whole hopefulness thing in the cover arts for the game.
Yeah.
Have you seen the cover art
I don't
for
believe.
Last of Us 2? I'll show you the fucking cover art because I'll compare. Like, if you look at the two cover arts, they're just total fucking opposites. I gotta like fucking download them real quick. But in The Last of Us 2, the fucking cover art is Ellie like blood on her face, staring at the cover, fucking pissed the fuck off for no goddamn reason. Just super angry, just really pissed off. Like this is a low quality image, but it still showcases my point. But like she's super pissed off, she's angry, she's older, and it's like, oh yeah, she's like all badass and angry now. But then you like look at the original like Last of Us cover, and like it's like the complete fucking opposite. It's Ellie and Joel walking through like water and shit, like trying to get to like they're walking towards the sun and it's meant to be hopeful. Like,
Yeah.
oh, here's all this good shit that's happening. And, like here there's a chance of hope and survival, and like this is how you get through. Like I just put it in the chat if you fucking if you look real quick.
Yeah. Where it's supposed to
That's
that
the
looks. And then yeah, this what. Oh god.
Yeah, and it's like it's polar fucking opposites of like what the games are supposed to be about. Because I love the original cover so fucking much. Like even the remastered cover that they did
Mm.
was pretty fucking cool. Where hold on, I'll see if I can find it real quick. But the remastered cover is like them in black and white and shit, and like it looks really
Yeah.
badass. But it's like them standing side by side, and like they like it's a lot darker, but it still like portrays the fact that like they're in this together, and this is about like more family aspects and being like realistic and stuff. So it's it's just like so fucking dumb how they went from being hopeful and inspiring and like this is what the like the whole point of The Last of Us is that hope is important, and like it's important to like even if you're selfish, even if the world is shitty, to still be like there for people and do the right thing, even if there's no point in it.
Yeah.
And then the fucking second game just takes a
Ugh.
giant shit on everything the first game is about. For
Yes.
99% of the game. The last 1% of the game, which is the like worst part of the fucking game. And it's like, oh, it's like it's so fucking self-defeating.
Yes. And the
It's
ending of the second
so
game is the worst. It's just the worst. I don't like it.
it's uh, okay, let's start from the beginning. Let's start from the beginning of why everything gets fucked up. Which technically the beginning is the DLC for The Last of Us, the first one, if you
Yeah.
remember that. I think it's which the DLC is the most pointless fucking thing ever. There was no need for it. It didn't add anything. It basically what it was just oh, Ellie and her friend go out to a mall when the apocalypse was
Yeah.
going on, and she's like 12. She's still like 14 or like 13 at the time, and they go out to the mall, and then this is how Ellie gets bit, and her friend dies. But then it turns out Ellie is gay, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
whoa, this is
Bro.
totally essential to her character. And it's like, fucking bro,
Who
no, it's not.
cares? Yeah. No.
Nobody
Like.
cared that she was gay. Like the whole point of the first game is that there's no like romantic relationships going on.
Yeah. It's just like
That's
father
the
and daughter.
whole
It's not like father and gay person. No.
Yeah,
Like.
it's just father and daughter, and like there's nothing negative about her being gay, and there's nothing like positive about her being gay because they
Yes.
don't do it well. Like
No.
it's just like she's like it's implying that like two people of the same gender can't
Can't
be
be
platonically
friends.
friends for some
Yeah.
reason. And it's like
Well,
like
like we
even
we
if
say
Ellie
that,
was
but
gay
like,
and their friend wasn't, it was like you guys can't just be friends. It's like oh, it's so stupid.
like you say that, but look at band. You know.
Listen,
take a close
shut up.
hard look at that real quick. Hold on.
Listen, we're not talking about our experiences. We're talking about life. All right.
All right, fine. We're talking about Ellie right now.
So we're talking about Ellie, and it's just like it was so dumb how they did it, and because it didn't add anything or make
No,
anything. The
unnecessary.
DLC added nothing to her character, added nothing to the story of the game. It wasn't really that like interesting. It was just 2 hours of bullshit. It was 2 hours of bullshit that they could charge you $20 for.
Yeah.
And the only major reveal was her friend died, she got bit, and she's gay. And it's like, okay, you could have revealed this in the next game and been perfectly fine because there's nothing wrong with her being gay. But to devote a whole fucking 2 hour like expansion pack or fucking DLC to this, there was no point, and
Yeah.
it was just wasted time.
They could have said that in like an email. Oh yeah. By
that
the
that
way,
would
she's
have
gay.
like a note in the beginning of the next game, just in big letters, "I'm gay," and it's like, oh, all right.
I mean, honestly, that probably would like okay if they had like in the beginning of Last of Us Part One, if they just told you in the beginning that she's gay and then never mentioned it at all through the rest of the game, that would have been perfect.
Yeah, because
But
then it would
like,
have made fucking sense. It would have been
yes,
more realistic because like that
yes,
doesn't change anything about who she is as a person. It was like,
yes,
all right, she's gay. Am I supposed to change how I feel about her? No,
yeah,
she's a
exactly,
person.
exactly.
I like her as a person. Her being gay doesn't make me like her less or more. It's just that's who she is. And it was so pointless. But after the DLC, they basically announced a year later, when the remaster dropped, that Last of Us Part 2 was being made for the PlayStation 4. And it's kind of like I don't know if they did it on purpose, which they probably did because Sony's like really like likes to do shit on purpose. Because The Last of Us came out at the end of the PlayStation 3 generation. Like they
Yeah,
specifically designed it to be at the end of the PlayStation 3 generation. They're like, all right, this is the last of our exclusives because they had like a run of like really bad exclusives that didn't work out well. They had like the Uncharted games are doing fine, but like there was the God of War game, like Revolution or revamped or some bullshit that didn't do well. There was PlayStation Heroes. There was fucking the Tomb Raider game sold well, but then that was also a Microsoft game, and then it just ended up just selling to Microsoft again, and it was like, oh, okay. So they had a run of like really bad PlayStation exclusives. So what they did was they decided, all right, this is the last exclusive. Just throw it at the end of the cycle. We'll hype it up a bit, but we're not really going to focus on it. And it blew up into the fucking massive game that it is now.
Yeah.
And so once The Last of Us Remastered came out for the PlayStation 4, they were like, all right, we're working on The Last of Us 2. It's coming out, and never should have.
Yes.
It really, like, well, this version of it shouldn't have come out.
Yes, I
Because
think that
I
they could
feel
have
like,
fixed it, but they didn't.
yeah, they could. There's a way you could do a Last of Us 2 that works, and you see it in this Last of Us 2 with the flashback sequences. Like, there's a way you can do it in which it works and it's emotionally impactful. But for
Yes.
some reason, they were like, you know what? Fuck Joel. Let's focus on this random white bitch named Abby. And it's like, what?
Well, I think
It,
what happened was Naughty Dog went to the movies one day and saw the John Wick films and went, you know what would be freaking badass if we had Ellie become John Wick, but like also way shittier.
yeah.
They built the game around.
Which is kind of ironic because like John Wick and like Logan kind of stole from The Last of Us in a weird way, where it's like
Yeah.
older man loses close family member and then goes on revenge spree.
Yes.
Like they kind of like the movie stole from the game, and then the game stole from the movie in the weird way, and it was like, huh, all right, but like, I don't even know really where to start with Last of Us 2 because we've been talking about good shit for the past hour. I don't even. How do you delve into something that's so like? Should we
Well,
start with things that we like about the game?
well, okay, sure.
All right. What did you like about the game?
I guess it looks nice.
That is very true. It's probably the
Yeah.
best looking game for the PlayStation 4 right now.
Yes.
It
The
looks
first
really
one looked
fucking
really good
pretty.
too. This one was awesome as well. I think that's just kind of like a staple of AAA games nowadays. They just keep getting better looking as time goes on.
Yeah.
Um, what else do I like? I mean, I heard there's not much good to say.
Well, I actually liked the gameplay in this game. They did a lot of fucking improvements
Yeah, I heard that
over the
they
last game.
improved it on the original formula to make it like not quite as boring.
Yeah. Yeah, the gameplay loop is slightly less boring, and like the way everything kind of works is like a little more just like it feels more interesting in a weird way, and I don't know why. I don't really know like the specifics of it, but like the HUD, like the heads-up display, looks way nicer. The way the guns work, like the upgrading system for the guns, is fucking sick. Like have you seen that? The way the upgrading system for the guns works?
I don't believe so.
Oh god, fucking watch a video for it. It's actually fucking insane because like instead of like in the last game where it's like, oh, here's an improvement that makes the gun sway disappear. It's like, oh, okay. But now in this game, it's like you literally get to see them dismantle the gun and then rebuild it in order to like fucking add new components to it.
Oh, that's
Like you
pretty
get to literally see them take off the scope, put on a new one, like move off handles and shit and put it on. And it's like really realistic, and like it's like, wow, that actually looks fucking great. But like the gameplay is cool. Uh, but otherwise, there's a couple of cool characters. Like there's one or two. I liked the boyfriend of Dina, the ex-boyfriend of Dina. He was cool.
cool.
What was his name? Jimmy James? J-
Something like
Billy Bob Joel? Like I don't
yes.
fucking remember his
Knock off
name.
Joel Part 2.
Yeah. Uh, but he was cool. Um, Tommy was more interesting in this game.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think so. He was definitely way more interesting. Uh, that's it.
Yeah, that's
I didn't really like any of the other characters because the rest of
No.
them were kind of douchebags.
Yeah.
I mean, it was cool to finally like play as Ellie consistently because you only really played her for like what, an hour and a half in the first
Yeah,
game.
only like the winter section when
Like
like
there was the
stand.
brief cannibal sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's really all you get to see of her like play. But it's cool to just actually play as her. Jesse, the guy's name is Jesse.
That's it.
Yeah, Jesse was cool, but otherwise it's like Ellie's cool to play as. The gameplay is good. Two characters are interesting. It looks nice, but it's it's like it's hard to look at the game in like an objective manner because
It's so story
the
driven,
whole
you can't like separate it.
yeah, it's not like God of War or
Yeah.
like the new God of War is very story driven as
It's a
well, but you
very
can
good
kind
game
of
though.
like
I freaking love the new
yeah,
God of War.
God of War is fucking amazing. It's way better than Last of Us 2.
Oh
But
yeah.
but it's like at the very least you could kind of like separate it where it's like where you play like fucking like Super Mario Odyssey. Like you don't really need the fucking story in that game.
Yes.
There's borderline no story. It's just the gameplay so fucking good. You don't really give a shit
Yeah.
about the story, but there's still one that's there but that nobody cares about. Like, oh, I'm a ghost with a hat, and I'm a hat that you throw on people. It's like nobody cares. Shut up. Let me play the game.
Well, like
But this, it's like
I think the problem with Last of Us Part was what I said earlier. It's like you're watching a movie, but you're interacting with it at the same time. And because the
yeah,
story is so bad, and because it's like watching a movie, it's like watching a movie with a shitty story. Like you
yeah.
can't separate. Like it's just
And it's like
integral.
you can't turn it off once it gets bad because it
Yeah.
gets bad at the very beginning.
Yes.
And it's like, what? It's like, why am I watching this like this? It's like it's there's no point. It's like the best like comparison that I can have is like, have you ever seen like Community? Have you ever watched Community, the show?
No.
Well, you're missing out. The show's great, but it's like well, you know what? You remember Pokemon? You remember watching Pokemon as a kid?
Ah, yeah.
Imagine you just finished the first season of Pokemon and the second one is coming out, and then Pikachu just has to watch Ash get blown up by Moltres in this first episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty
That's what
much.
it feels like. That's what Last of Us 2 feels like. It feels like we
Yeah.
just watched the fucking Ash die in the first episode of the new series. It's like, what? What why? Why would you do this? It's like there's no point. And now we're just stuck with fucking Misty as the main character. It's like, what?
Yeah.
I don't care about Misty and Dawn. What happened to Ash? It's like, ugh, where do you start with Last of Us 2? I guess there is good parts to it, but it's so like the whole point of the first game that everybody liked was the story. That's the part everybody remembers,
Yeah.
and that's like what you should be improving upon in the second game. And they just
Ruining it.
improved on, yeah, they just improved all the aspects that people really didn't care about the first game.
Yeah.
And it's like entirely fucked up just from its structure. Like I remember watching it being played and I was just utterly confused. Like not like
Yeah.
shocked. It's just it's so because they decided to go for a non-linear approach
Which is
that it's
weird.
super jarring from the last game, which is so fucking straightforward.
Yes.
And it makes like no sense because it's like why am I flashing back? Why am I suddenly in different places? Why am I suddenly changing to a different character that I have no context for other than they just murdered the best character in the series? Like it's like I don't care. Like
Pretty much.
it, it's like you don't care about like this new character Abby's story because the only context you have for her as a character is
Murdered the
killing
main
the
character.
character you like, and it's like, why do I care?
Yeah, like what? Like, and they're trying to like make her more relatable or whatever, and like more human, but you can't
But her
because
relatableness is so
isn't.
dumb because you don't
Yeah.
care about any of the characters, and it's like I just want all of them to die,
Pretty much.
and it's so odd because like we were saying before, like the second game should have just been Ellie and Joel again, but this time from Ellie's perspective after finding out about like the hospital event. Like
Yeah.
that's what the second game should have been. And like her just being separated from Joel and doing things on her own, and like maybe building the relationship between her and Dina, and like Jesse as a character, and even Tommy even more, and like exploring like because like the first game was exploring society's collapse. Maybe the second game can explore like society's rebuild and like do more with it other than just like whatever the fuck this mess was. Because I'm like trying to remember shit from the game, and it's like it's so cluttered that like also they really this is a thing that I really hate about this game is they try to do what the first game did with the parallels between the characters.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about the two black kids and Joel and Ellie, and it was like there was parallels between Joel and Ellie and the two black kids, but the parallels are so obvious in this game that it makes it confusing when you try to recall anything. Because I'm like, there's like the Owen and Melanie and Abby are in like this shitty love triangle, and then Jesse, Dina, and Ellie are also in this shitty love triangle. And then it's like, oh, Dina's pregnant by Jesse, but Melanie and Owen are also pregnant, but Abby fucked Owen while Melanie was pregnant, but Ellie and Dina are now dating, but Dina and Jesse are broken up. And then like Abby's best friend gets shot in the face, and then Ellie's best friend Jesse gets shot in the face, and you're like, wait, are these two different events, or am I remembering everything out of order?
Yeah.
It just gets really confusing and messy, and it's so not consistent with what it's trying to do.
I mean, yeah, I think one of the other problems is like trying to build an entire game based on parallels between characters. Just kind of silly.
Yeah, it's like you. I feel like you could do it, but like because like again, God of War kind of did that well with like
Yeah.
the parent child relationship because he had like Balder, where
Mm,
Balder is like he has an awful relationship with his mom because his mom took away his ability to feel anything, so
yeah.
he can't feel pain, happiness, love, joy, sadness. He
Yeah.
only feels anger and hatred,
Yeah. He can't feel
and
like pleasure or anything, and he's just like,
yeah,
I'm gonna kill you, mom.
Yeah, and then it's like contrasted with like Kratos and Atreus because they're just like, yeah, you're fucked up. That and he's like, I know, and he's like, damn, all right. And then that's like the whole story of the game is like they just accept the fact that they're fucked up, and like Baldur's just like, you fucked me up, and she's like, I know, and it's like, god damn it, I'm gonna kill you, and it's like, oh god,
Yeah. The ending is like, I mean, Baldur, like the first time that he meets Kratos is my favorite.
oh
At
yeah,
the house, 'cause that's just like, oh, it's so good. And then
yeah,
the ending where Kratos like snaps his neck and he's like, all right, the cycle ends here, and then he falls to the ground, and as he's dying, he feels snow on his face, and he's like,
oh, it's
ah.
so great.
I was like, ah, good character ending right there.
Yeah, that's the way you send off a character respectfully, even if you didn't like them. Because like
Yes.
you like you understand their pain, you understand the reason that they did something, and then you send them off in a way that like is respectful towards the character. Where it's
Yes.
like for some reason this game like tries to portray Joel as like the villain
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
already know he's an awful person.
Well, yeah.
Like that's the
We know
whole
he's
point of the
awful.
first game.
But like, well, like the difference is like, they in the first game they weren't forcing anything down your throat. They're just leaving it up to you to decide whether or not you believed like sided with him. The second game, like,
Hmm.
no, you are going to hate Joel, and he's a bad man, and this is all the things why. And also, like, you play as the girl who murdered him. Now, deal with it, nerd.
And you're supposed to support her and her choices, and it's like what?
Yeah, but you don't.
No,
The
you've
point is,
given
like, you
me
want
no
the
reason
ambiguity.
to.
Yeah, you want the
It
ambiguity and the morality, but there is none because the game tries to force you to go one way or the other.
exactly because it's like the best way I can describe it is like if you started off the first game at the hospital sequence.
Yes,
It's
yes.
like then you would immediately hate Joel. You'd be like, you just fucked over the entire universe. Like you just fucked over the entire planet. Why would I ever like you as a character? Even if I
Yes.
understand your motivations, I don't give a shit. You just killed everybody. And so that's why you can't really sympathize with Abby as a character because she's just like you just killed the only character that I really liked besides like Ellie, and I don't have any other attachment to this game. Like you literally just lost 50% of the interest I had in this game.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Like, because the only characters that we have a relationship built up with is Joel and Ellie, and
Hmm.
then one of them's fucking dead. It's like, well, what the fuck do we do now?
And they
And they're
ruined
just like,
Ellie,
we
so
build a new character, and it's like, what? No.
yeah, you can't. Like, I mean, if they even if they had like Joel die, then you play as Ellie afterwards, instead of moving to Abby for most of the game, it would have been a little bit better. But
Yeah.
just right off the bat, like, okay, you just watched your favorite character's brains get splattered by a 9 iron. Now you're gonna play as a woman with a 9 iron for half the game. Have fun.
It's like, no, this is like, because it makes sense what they're trying to do, because they're trying to do the Infinity War thing, where it's like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, like Thanos was like the good guy and like he had moral ambiguity, but it's like also, yeah, but we don't like Thanos. Even if
yeah,
we understand what he's saying, we still don't like him. That'd be like watching the entire movie as like Thanos is like planting crops. It's like, what? I don't care. Like, I don't want to see Thanos planting crops. I want to bash Thanos's brains in. That's
like
what I
like
want to do.
like imagine if they like Infinity War had been like they go back in time and then like the POV just switches to be Thanos' innocent life for like half the movie, and then like
Yeah, where
halfway
it
through,
gets outcast from his planet, and like you get to watch him be sad and depressed as his planet dies around him, and it's like, what?
yeah, and then like the very ending of the film, the hero show up and just kill him, and you're like, well, they're the bad guys, obviously, you know.
Yeah, it's like it's so confusing because they're trying to do the moral ambiguity thing again, but they just did it in the wrong way. Because like they're like, oh, Joel's a bad guy, you should hate him, he did this bad thing. But then like Ellie's going back in the flashbacks. I'm like, oh man, Joel, I love you. You're like a father to me. And then, but you did a bad thing and I hate you again. And I was like, what? Why are we know Joel did a bad thing. We
Yeah,
know
they're
he's a
still gonna
shitty
tell us that.
person.
Like,
You don't need to tell us. We know that. It's the point of the first game is he's a bad person. He's an awful dude, but he cares about this girl because he's the only thing that he has left. And he has an awful backstory. And it's like that's the whole point is that he's a bad person. You're not supposed to be like he's not supposed to be like Nathan Drake where he's throwing around quips and jumping around and doing shit.
oh
It's
god,
like no, you're supposed to hate him.
yes,
You're supposed to not like him, but you're supposed to understand him.
yes,
And like that's the whole point of the first game. But then with Abby, it's just like I don't care about understanding you. You're a fucking scumbag.
yeah,
So you end up going through the first part of the game, like going through as Ellie, which is like all right, I guess. The first half of the game is like it's fine. It's cool to play as Ellie and do shit. But this is a complaint that I don't see people talking about, and this like almost ruined the entire fucking game for me. They talk way too fucking much in this game. There's too much talking in the sequences where you're not in cutscenes.
mm.
Because that's one thing that I really liked about the first game is like you would be walking around looting through houses and it'd be completely silent. Like it'd just be you and Ellie scrounging around grabbing supplies and there wouldn't be any conversation and then randomly Ellie would be like, what's this over here? And it'd be like a suitcase and we'd be like, oh well, looks like they were packing up to leave. It's like, oh, looks like they didn't make it. And it's like, no, they didn't. And then that's all the conversation for that entire fucking section. But when you play in this fucking game, when you're in like the section with like Dina and like when you're first going out to look for Tommy and like find Abby, like fucking they just talk 24/7 non fucking stop. And it's like this is not what you would be doing in an
Yeah.
apocalypse scenario where you're constantly looking out for danger. You'd be sitting around going, you'd be like silent, watching every fucking building, making sure there's not a sniper or a horde of zombies coming out to eat you. Like, why are you talking so fucking much? Be quiet.
This
Like,
is like
let us
walking the
enjoy
park.
the silence.
Yes.
Because you got to sit in the silence of like being with these characters and just like watching them like survive. But this, it's like just like, so you know how to play guitar? And it's like,
It's like I
yeah,
don't
I
care,
do.
dog.
It's like, what? Just shut up.
Somebody shoot this
Oh,
person.
that's another good thing. The guitar is fun.
Bar is fun. That's
Can we put that on the box?
you give
Guitar is fun.
it. That's the Us 2 remastered. The guitar is fun.
It, It is. I mean, there have been people that have been fucking covering songs using the guitar
Yeah, and
online.
like the
They
sad
did.
part is
They
like
did.
I know the voice actor who plays Ellie. I've seen her other
Uh-huh.
stuff. She does Critical Role. So like I've seen her in other stuff, and I kind of feel bad that she had to be a part of this. Like she's such a
She got a
great,
paycheck. I
calm.
don't care.
I mean, yeah, but it's like you see like actors and actresses take roles in horrible movies, and you're like, damn, how desperate were you? Like, Jesus, you're pretty low for this role, huh?
Yeah, I think a lot of the people like in this game like probably regret like especially after the backlash because they don't have like a lot of choice when it comes to the like what happens to the game.
Yeah.
Like I know fucking Nolan North, I think is the voice actor for Joel, has been like going to war on fucking Twitter. Like,
Mm.
oh no, Troy Baker. Troy Baker is
Yeah,
the
yeah,
voice.
yeah.
Troy Baker, who I like Troy Baker. He's done a lot of fucking good voices. He's who the fuck else did he do? I'm gonna look it up real quick because he's been on a lot of really good shit.
He's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, him and Nolan North I know are like close friends because they're both like voice actors who have done every white guy in a video game that's the main character.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but like Troy Baker and like Neil Druckmann, who's the guy
God.
uh that
Oh
fucking wrote
God.
the game, are
Neil
just like
Druckmann.
going fucking crazy
Neil
on
Suckman,
Twitter.
more like it.
Huh?
Neil Suckman.
Shut the fuck up. Let's see. But like, yeah, they've been going to fucking war on Twitter, and it's like really sad to watch. Like, especially people going after them because it's like they're not doing everything.
Yeah, well, it's like 'cause, I
They're
mean,
not.
it's not their fault, you know.
Yeah, it's not the voice actor's fault. Like, yeah, if you want to go after the writer, I mean, go ahead. But if you're like going after them 24 fucking 7, like, shut up.
Yeah.
But oh, okay, he was Samuel Drake in Uncharted 4. Troy Baker. He was Magni from God of War. He was Batman in the Telltale game for the Batman
Oh.
Telltale game. He was he was Jason Todd in the Arkham VR game.
Hmm.
That's what he's like been doing recently. He's Batman in the Lego games and the Lego TV show movies stuff.
Yeah.
That's the guy that voices Joel, which is kind of
Wow.
fucking funny.
Yeah, that's like a really great, contrast there.
Yeah, let's see. He was the Arkham Knight and Two Face in the Arkham Knight game for
Oh, nice.
Batman. Uh, oh my God, he was Reese from Tales from the Borderlands.
What?
He was Reese, the fucking main character from Tales from the Borderlands.
Uh, Ow.
Yeah, that's fucking. Oh, he was Pagan Min.
What?
He's fucking Pagan Min. What the fuck?
That's really impressive, actually.
Oh Jesus fuck. He was Delsin from Infamous, Infamous Second Son. If you remember that game.
Yeah, that's a good game.
Yeah, that's a really fucking good game. What the fuck is this? What? He was the president of the USA from Saints Row 4. He's the main dude
He's
from
the
the Saints
main
Row 4.
character. He must voice one of the main characters. Oh, that's so funny.
He was
Uh,
fucking Booker from Bioshock Infinite?
Dang.
Jesus Christ, this dude's fucking got a long list. He does a bunch of anime voices too that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most American
But
voice
Jesus
actors seem to do like anime and stuff as well.
yeah, they do like the English
English, yeah,
adaptations. They do that a lot.
the dubs.
Yeah, oh my God, this guy's got a long fucking track record of people I know. That's crazy. Usually I just think of fucking Nolan North for doing all this shit.
Yeah, usually he's like the go-to guy.
Yeah, but I guess he's getting up there in age, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He did Two Face in all of the Arkham games. Is what he did.
Oh.
He was Two Face in all of them, and then he became Red Hood and Arkham Knight in Arkham Knight. Oh, he's also the main fucking voice for the Saints Row 3 dude too.
Nice. I had both those games. They're very good.
Yeah, I've only played Saints Row 4 and Saints Row 2, I think. I haven't played Saints Row 3. And Saints Row 4 is a lot of fucking fun though.
Yes.
Yeah, we were talking about how like people have been attacking like the actors and shit for like being involved in this game, and it's like they have no choice. Like they're
Yeah, they
just
don't.
fucking there to get a paycheck at the end of the day. They don't make the decision.
Yeah, it's like the writers and the editors and stuff choose how they use the lines and everything, so it's not like they can control
Yeah,
that, you know?
yeah, it makes no sense to go after the actors. Like if you want to go after the writers, I understand, but like even to a certain extent, it's like it borderlines on like harassment and shit. And it's like, God, just leave them alone after a fucking while. But what else? What else for this fucking game? What were we talking about before all this that we got on this?
Uh, how awful it is and stuff that like they tried to do the moral ambiguity and it didn't work, and then they went with like the murdering of Joel and trying to make Abby relatable, and
Yeah,
they couldn't do that either. And
yeah. So like the Ellie section of the game is fucking basically pointless. Like the first Ellie section is pointless. It really is. Because like nothing really happens during it. You just kind of learn about like Abby's like quote unquote like the rogues gallery essentially that you're gonna be fucking going after.
yeah,
But then you don't even kill any of them. Like you only get to watch like you only kill like three. Which there is one section of the game that is really fucking good that I absolutely loved. And I wish there was more of it. It's the section where you're in the hospital as Ellie going after the black lady. That's the black nurse. Have you seen that section?
I don't think so.
That section is really fucking great because you end up chasing her to get information about where Abby is because you hear like as you're going through the hospital somebody go, "Oh yeah, Abby's in like the section 9 or whatever." And then you break in and then you find the black lady and the black lady was there when Joel died and is like, "Where is Abby and what is section 9?" as you're like holding a gun to her and she's like, "Listen, I don't know who Abby is. I don't know what's going on." It's like, "Yeah, you do. I remember you from that fucking when you killed Joel." And she's like, "Oh shit, you're the girl. You're fucking here." And then like you chase her through the fucking whole you chase her through the whole hospital sequence. And then you end up dropping down into like this quarantine area, which they mentioned later on in the game that this was like the hospital that they're in was like the patient zero area for the
Uh,
outbreak. So you end up jumping down, it's like covered in spores and shit. And obviously, since Ellie is immune, she doesn't need like a gas mask or anything. So like
that's
you
I
end up
call
killing like, huh?
that's pretty BS. Cause like figure, it's still like fungal spores. She would still have like an asthma attack. Like you still
Ah,
couldn't breathe in that.
but it's cool for the story because what happens is like she ends up killing a bunch of soldiers in the fucking area, and then she finds the black lady. The black lady is like coughing and fucking dying because she's infected now. And then she looks at Ellie just breathing in the shit, and she's like, "You're her. You're the girl from the hospital." And she's like, "I know." And then she fucking picks up a pipe and then bashes her in the fucking skull for information. And it's like, oh, that's fucking badass. Like it's
Nice.
actually like she turns into Joel in that scene.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this is fucking sick. Like this is amazing. But then afterwards, she fucking comes back and she's covered in blood and she's all like shaky and she's got like PTSD now. And it's like, God damn it,
Yeah. Not you
don't
too.
ruin this.
Jesus.
It's because like in all actuality, like somebody would have PTSD from bashing somebody's brains in with a pipe. But it's like
Well, yeah,
it's
but
not it's not entertaining for a story. Now I just feel
no.
sad for Ellie that she has PTSD because like I didn't feel bad for Joel because we didn't like see the first time like he actually had to kill somebody. He was just used to
Yeah.
it. And like they tried to do a thing where like Ellie is just like you can't be like Joel because Joel is just like the worst example of like a person. Which is like the point is like that's you would be the worst example of a person if you're surviving in the apocalypse.
Of course, you have to be.
Yeah, it's just it doesn't make any sense. And so it's just like that's the only sequence in the game that I really love. But like the whole Ellie sequence is just it's just stupid. And then you get to Abby, where Abby is just a fucking mess, dude. Where do you even start with that?
Yeah, she's definitely a character.
She is, and that's the unfortunate part.
Yes, that is the bad part.
She is a character, and like the weird thing is like you don't care at all about anything that happens to her.
No.
because like you already have like it's just poor story writing.
Yeah, because you have no other
'Cause-
context for her besides murdering main character. So
yeah,
no matter
so
how
it's like why
sad
would I
you make
care?
her, yeah, like no matter how sad you make her, like your first impression is still stronger than that stuff. So
And even with the sad that they make her, all of her fucking choices are stupid in her story.
yeah,
Because like the long and short of it is she's cheating on her pregnant friend with her ex-boyfriend that got her friend pregnant, and then like, oh yeah, okay, it's like, I don't care about Owen. I don't care that they had a relationship. And the reason that she killed Joel was because Joel killed her dad, because her dad was the lead surgeon that was meant to kill Ellie. And it's
mm,
meant to be like, oh yeah, it's like this is where the cycle continues, where like the cycle has to like keep going on. And I
yeah,
feel like this revenge cycle keeps happening. But I mean, what even fucking happens? Like Abby like wants to go. She finds like these two kids. There are these two Asian kids that are a part of this cult called the Seraphites, but they're just called Scars, whatever the fuck. And when you find these two kids, and one of them is a trans kid, and like it's a she that transitioned into a man because like he talked to his sister and was like, hey, I feel like a boy, and she's like, that's against the word of the cult, and it's like, okay. And then he like cut off his hair and then like tried to assimilate into being a boy, and they were like, blasphemer, and then fucking like tried to kill him and his sister. And then they send him out into like the fucking forest, and then it's like they're trying to kill him, all this stupid shit. So Abby feels bad and is like, "Oh man, little trans boy, I feel bad for you," and decide to take you under my wing. And it's like, okay, I don't care about this kid. I don't care about his emotions. I don't care about Abby. Like because she ends up like fucking over every other character that like she's supposedly friends with for this boy.
oh,
And it's like, yeah, like she ends up just like she meets this kid, she feels bad, and then she ends up just like, oh, Owen, fuck you. Like I want to take care of this kid. Oh, Melanie or whatever the fuck, I fuck you. I got to take care of this kid. And it's like trying to be like the first game where like Joel was making tough decisions, but it's like in a completely different context that doesn't work
yes,
because Ellie was special. Ellie was special because she had the cure, she was immune, and he wasn't like fucking over his close friends and family. Abby is just fucking over her friends and family. And it's just like, okay, how am I supposed to sympathize with a character that killed the only character I like and is now just fucking over everybody close to her? Like, how am I supposed to feel attached to her when she's doing this for some random kid that she just met? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And it's even more annoying gameplay wise because Abby gets all the new fucking guns.
oh, ugh.
Yeah, because like when you're in the Ellie section, the order that you get the guns and the guns that you get is identical to the first game. Like literally ripped identically from the first game. And it's like, what? Like you feel like you're just going through the first game again without like the interesting characters or anything going on. Like you get the flamethrower, you get Joel's pistol, you get the fucking regular Glock, you get like the shotgun, you get like the hunting rifle, all in the same order as the first game, and it's like this doesn't make any sense. And then you get the Abby section, and she gets a fucking double barrel shotgun, she gets a crossbow, she gets this cool badass like AR assault rifle that's like fucking long range but also automatic, and it's like what is going on? Like this feels like this is the game that should have been going on for the first 15 hours. But now I have to go through another 15 hours of new gameplay and a character I don't like.
Yeah,
And it's just so ridiculous because there's pieces of this game that could be good. Like I really could see like a good game coming out of it. but it's just not. It's just not good. It's not fun. I don't care about like Abby's character or the kid whose name I think is Lev. It's some other like L name or some shit, but there's like 20 of them in this game.
Lenny.
It's Lenny too. It's Lenny the Third.
Lenny the Third.
But you end up not caring about the character as like a whole, which is just not something you want to have happen in a game. Because just watching it, it's like, oh, this is just sad. It's just sad watching the game happen in all actuality. Because you can see good shit happening, but you end up just getting frustrated because you're like, okay, so she's like fucking over her friends, abandoning her entire community, like all of this shit for these two kids. Well, for this one kid in all actuality, this one little Asian kid. And it's like, why? Because there's no motivation to, because Joel wasn't like abandoning family or doing any of that shit. He was starting a new family. But she's like, hey, yo, fuck all y'all. I'm going with this random ass kid. And literally ends up killing like half of her family. Well, like ends up like damaging her entire community. Like her community ends up like being irreparably fucked because of her choices and the decisions she makes in the game. And it's like, Jesus Christ. It's just bad writing. It's just bad writing for the character. And then you get after that, like she starts fucking over her family, like her whole community for it. She like finds out that Owen and Melanie died by the hand of Ellie in literally the stupidest plot device ever. Ellie left the map that she fucking marked home base in big blue ink where she killed killed the two fucking people. And I'm like, really? It's like, this is the most contrived bullshit like way. Because that's like one part of the game that's kind of interesting, like gameplay wise, is like you get a map and you can go to different locations, and it's like kind of mini open world. Or like, oh, there's a bank you can go to get like a new gun. Oh, there's like a like apartment building you can go to get some more loot, and you can kind of do like mini exploration shit more than you could do in the last game. But it's just like you have this map and it's literally marked like this is Station 9, this is Station 8, this is home base. It's circled in big blue ink around the movie theater that they're holed up in, and it's like, you left that. And that's your excuse for the character finding out where the character we like is. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's pretty.
You didn't think it. You didn't think ahead. Like, it's just like, either you wrote this in like a year, or you wrote this over the course of 5 years and just kept changing things and just combined it into all one massive mess.
Yeah.
And so Abby goes to the fucking place where they're holed up, shoots Jesse in the fucking face, then shoots Tommy in the fucking face. But for some reason, Tommy survives and just has a fucked up eye and a leg. And it's like, what?
All right. I mean,
you
have a 1 in 10 chance of surviving a gunshot to the head, but for like a video game, that's usually just like an insta kill, you know?
Yeah, and it's even fucking weird too, because you watch it happen, like her fire into Tommy's face, and like he just goes still on the ground, and you're like, oh, he's fucking dead. Like, oh, he's definitely dead. And then you cut to like later in the game, and he's like, I'm still here and kicking, except I got a divorce. And it's like, what? Like, this is okay, all right, whatever, let's keep it going. But you watch Tommy get shot in the face, and then you get to the first of the two sequences where Ellie and Abby fight. And it's actually kind of fun watching it happen, because like it's really interesting to be the character watching Ellie play the game, because you only play it from Abby's perspective. And it's really interesting to watch like Ellie like go through and like shoot arrows at you and fucking like throw bombs and Molotovs at certain area. And you can like kind of bait her into wide open areas that like by throwing bottles and bricks. And it's like actually a cool idea to like flip the gameplay onto the character you play as. It's like, okay, this is actually kind of interesting. I like this. But the only really like great part that comes from that is you can actually just kill yourself as Abby multiple times
Yeah,
over and over
yeah,
again. So
yeah.
you can end up just being Abby and charging into Ellie and getting blasted in the face with a shotgun. And it's like, oh, this is great. I get to watch the character I hate die over and over again. And like I was watching people like stream the game, and that's just and one person did that for literally an hour and a half straight.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were just so tired of it, they were just like, man, fuck this, and just kept letting Abby die over and over again, which was like very entertaining. But
It's great.
after that, Ellie ends up getting her ass kicked, literally like just fucking covered in blood and dying. And then fucking what's her name? Abby threatens to kill Dina and cut out her fucking throat, knowing that she's pregnant, and going, I'm gonna fucking kill her. When you're gonna watch me kill her. And Ellie's like, no, please don't do it. And then the little boy comes in and is like, Abby, what the fuck are you doing? You gotta stop. And she's just like, fine, I won't kill her. Only because of you, little boy. And it's like, am I supposed to sympathize with this character?
Yeah, like what? No.
Because Ellie accidentally kills Melanie not knowing that she's pregnant. She kills her not knowing that she's pregnant because they're fucking she had like a big puffy jacket on, so you couldn't really see that her stomach that she was actually pregnant. And she basically has them both at gunpoint and he's like, all right, point me to the direction of Abby. And they're just like, no. And then they try to jump her. Then Ellie shoots Owen and then stabs Melanie in the neck. And you see that she's pregnant, and just Ellie just like starts breaking down because she's like, oh fuck, I just killed a pregnant woman. I feel awful. And it's like, now you're contrasting it with Abby, and she's just like, I know she's pregnant. That's why I'm going to cut out her throat. And it's like, what? This is the character I'm supposed to like? It's so bad. It's so bad. And so then she leaves those two for dead, and then fucking cut to like a year later or some bullshit, and now Ellie and Dina are like living out their fucking life on a goddamn ranch with a baby, living out a ranch with Jesse's baby, and they're like, "Oh man, we're a happy lesbian couple." And then fucking Ellie goes out to the farm and has a PTSD flashback of Joel dying, and it's like, what is happening anymore? It's so confusing. And she has a PTSD flashback. Tommy comes back and he's like, I got a divorce and I'm blind and disabled now. It's like, what? And that happens, and then I'm sorry if I sound like a fucking crack addict right now, but this is literally how the game is ordered. Like it sounds like a crack dream. It sounds like a crack addict is just talking about the dream they had while high and in the middle of like a fucking highway or some shit. Like it's so ass backwards and confusing, and so much shit happens that is like in such close proximity to each other and so similar. It's like it's batshit insane.
Yeah.
And then fucking Ellie sees Tommy, and Tommy is like, "Oh, we found where Abby is. She's out there." And Ellie's like, "All right, I'm gonna go get her." And then Dina's like, "No, you're not gonna go get her." And Ellie's like, "Why?" And then Dina's like, "Because if you go out there, I'm not gonna be here when you come back because I'm not about this revenge shit." And it's like, what? Like you were all about it in the first like 85% of the game, but now you're like, you can't go out and do that. And it's even more fucking hypocritical because literally earlier in the game, Dina was like, oh, if I was in your shoes, I'd do the same fucking thing. But now, no. And it's like, oh my god, fucking Christ. So Abby and Lev are like in the middle of like fucking California or some shit, which is like, hey, welcome back to California. Like how we started the podcast. But they're in California and they're looking for fireflies. They find like a secret hidden base and they hit up the radio and they're like, hey, are there any fireflies out there? And they're like, yes, sirree, we're out here at this location. And they're like, oh, yay, a tease for the future game, more fireflies? Like, but the fireflies are all dead. That was the point of the first one, but okay, stupid. Then Abby and the Asian boy get captured, and they're taken to this another group that is involved because that's what the fourth group in this fucking game. There's the Tommy group, the Tommy community where Joel and Ellie lived. There's the cult, and then there's the original community that Abby fucked over, and now there's another one that captured them and wants to like use them as like sex slaves and cannibals, and it's like, huh? And so Ellie finds them, finds out that they're at the cannibal place, then burns down the cannibal place and like completely fucks over another community, which is like the third community that's been completely fucked over in this game. And then she's like, Ellie, she's like, Abby, I found you. I'm gonna fight you to the death. And then they start fighting in the ocean in like a storm, and it's like, oh man. But then like Abby's like, no, I'm not gonna fight you. And then Ellie takes her fucking knife and puts it to the throat of the little boy and is like, if you don't fucking fight me, I'm gonna cut out this little boy's throat. And is like, huh? It's like, what the fuck is going on? Like this is so confusing. And then they start fighting, and then Ellie almost kills Abby, and then she pulls, like, she's drowning her under the water. She pulls her out of the water and she goes, no, leave. And then Abby leaves, and that's the end of the game. And then Ellie goes to her fucking house, and then Dina's gone, and now she's lost her entire family. And oh, I almost forgot. Abby cut off like 3 of her fingers on like her hand, so she can't play guitar anymore. And like guitar is central to the game because Joel taught Ellie how to play the guitar, and so now she's lost everything of Joel. And it's like, well, that's great. The character we liked got completely fucked over, and the character we didn't like gets to live on another day and be happy.
Yeah.
And that's The Last of Us 2.
The worst. Nobody likes
it. Well, people liked it. For some reason, people liked it. Some people liked it. Well, I didn't. It's clear. We didn't.
Yeah, no.
Because we ended up spending half the podcast talking about literally every other game except Last of Us 2.
And they were like, oh, do you guys talk about this? All right, fine. We'll talk about this.
Okay, so that's just Last of Us 2. It's a fucking mess. It is. Dakota, what is your perfect vision for Last of Us 2 so we can wrap this shit up, because I now I have a headache.
Perfect vision for Last of Us 2? I think it would be better if there wasn't a second one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
like,
if there had to be a second one,
if you absolutely had to make like a Last of Us 2, what would be your perfect vision of it?
I think it would be, like I said earlier, with like the between years where like how in the beginning of the our reality version of Last of Us 2, how like Joel and Ellie have been separated for like a long time, and it's been like years or whatever. What happened in those years? That's like the interesting part. Like how, like I want to see their fight. I want to see them leave each other. I want to see the beginning of Ellie struggling to survive on her own and getting her ass beat because she's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the drama. That's interesting, and it doesn't require that either of them get murdered in cold blood for no reason.
Yeah,
they can both like be their own thing.
Yeah, that sounds honestly a lot fucking better than this messy piece of shit. If I had to say my perfect version of Last of Us 2, I feel like the idea of switching to a different character is kind of interesting, but I wouldn't. There's 2 versions I have for Last of Us 2 that could be really interesting, where instead of making this a direct sequel to Joel and Ellie's story, make it like an anthology series where like kind of like what they did in like Resident Evil or something, where it like switches characters.
Yeah.
Where like instead of it being like Joel and Ellie, make it like a new story that explores like different characters. Like make it like Michael and his dog Doug, like exploring like the beginning of the apocalypse or some shit. Like Michael's like a 16-year-old kid who like grew up on a farm. And like he's like an 18-year-old kid who grew up on a farm, and he knows how to use guns and stuff, but he's got like his dog Doug, who's like a little golden retriever or like a Rottweiler or some shit. And then he goes to the big city because he's got to go for college, And then right as he goes to college, like the fucking apocalypse happens, and now he's like stuck there, and he wants to get back to his family. Like you could
Yeah.
do some cool shit like that. If like just use the Last of Us name as like a Twilight Zone kind of thing, where it's just like
Yes.
the
Different.
moniker.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like that could have been probably my preferable option is to like an Ellie and Joel story. It ended how it should have ended.
Yeah, it's just over. Like we never
Yes.
hear of them again, and like maybe you get like inklings of like, oh yeah, there might have been like a girl that was immune, but like she disappeared from the old Firefly base.
Yeah.
Like you might hear inklings of shit like that. But if I had to make like a direct sequel, like I got held by gut at gunpoint by fucking Troy Baker and Neil Druckmann. And they were like, listen, here's a pen and paper, write me fucking Last of Us 2. I'd be like, all right, I'll fucking do it. It would be about like the years in between before we got to Abby's story. Because I feel like they were trying to do an interesting thing with like the revenge cycle thing.
But it just
Cause, but
doesn't work because it's the apocalypse, and the point is that like that's all that there
yeah,
is.
like
Like,
everybody's seeking revenge and doing shitty things. Like it doesn't make any sense.
yeah.
And even the revenge cycle story was done better by fucking God of War. So it's like, why
Yes.
would you try to cover that again and not do it in a more interesting way, or at least attempt to do it in a more interesting way? Which I really think anybody couldn't, but you could make an attempt
Yes.
because I think it would be interesting to see like because the whole point of the first game is the build up of Ellie and Joel's relationship. I think it would be really interesting to see the collapse of their relationship in The Last of Us 2.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
Where it would be really interesting if like you see that like you go through like the first like let's say 6 7 hours of the second game and it's like, oh, Joel and Ellie, they're still like father and daughter, like the surrogate father and daughter. They still call themselves Joel and Elle. And then like maybe you get like a nice little moment of like Ellie accidentally calling him dad or some shit, and then he's like, "You called me dad." It's like, I mean, you're kind of it, right? And he's like,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess. And it's like there's like a little cute, wholesome moment where they're like, "Well, I guess I love you, dad," and he's like, "Well, I guess I love you, daughter." And it's just like some weird, wholesome moment that would make your heart glow because it's like, oh man, they're like really being a family out in the apocalypse. And then it would all come crashing down with fucking finding out about how what happened went down at the hospital, and now it's like you fucking lied to me for all these years, and he's like, you're right, and I would do it again because I don't want to lose you. And it's like, well, you're losing me now. And then you would have
Yeah.
some shit about like Ellie going off and like being separate from the community and going off and doing her own thing. And I think it would be really interesting if instead of meeting Abby in like the third game or whatever, or how we met her in this game, if Ellie and Abby like ended up having to be partners,
That could have
where
been. Yeah.
that would have been really interesting to me. Where it's just like you meet Abby and now you're like forced to survive together, and like
Mm.
even like you could even make like this whole thing of just them like them being surviving together, and it's like, oh well, I can take you back to my community, the wolves up in Washington, if you want to come with us. And I'd be like, oh yeah, that'd be great. And then like you're going from like Wyoming or whatever where Joel and them are, and you're going with Abby all the way up to Washington, and like Abby gets separated from her group, and then you can even like build the characters that like the rogues gallery from the beginning where that like killed Joel, because like they just show up for like 2 minutes and I'm like, man, fuck you, Joel. And then like the one dude Manny like spits on Joel's dead body, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, you can build them up and be like, oh, like, oh, all these characters are super friendly, they're really like nice to Ellie, and like, and if you wanted to bring up the lesbian thing, you could make Ellie and Abby have a romantic relationship,
Yeah.
and like make them build that trust, and you're like, oh, this is the new relationship of the story. And then at the end of the second game, you're like, you know what, like Ellie makes the decision, you're like, you know what, I want to take you to meet my quote unquote father, and she's like, oh, okay. And then like you bring like the whole friend group of the wolves, and you're like, we're gonna establish this community connection, we're gonna rebuild society, like we're gonna do this the right way. And then you bring this small group of wolves to the fucking little Tommy and Joel community, and then the wolves are like, oh, wait a fucking minute, that's the dude, that's the
Yeah.
dude. And like you see them acting all off and weirdly, and you're like, Joel's like, I don't think they like me that much. And it's just like, oh, maybe it's just because you're new around here. It's all new people. And then you just hit them right in the fucking face. They trap Joel, they trap Tommy, they trap Ellie, and then they just fucking murder Joel, and that's the end of the second game. And then you can have like the third game roll around where you do like the first half is Ellie and then the second half is Abby.
Yes,
I feel that
would
could have been
a
way more
lot better. For sure.
And just to like establish things and be like, oh, this is like how we know the character, and then Ellie's like, why would you do this? I thought you were in love with me. That's my dad. And it's like, then you get the flashbacks of like Abby growing up with her father and learning about how Joel murdered hers, and it's like, oh, okay, like now this is the revenge cycle. And then the third game could like explore like the collapsing of the relationship between Ellie and Abby and like everything that's going on, and it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, like you could do it really well. But they just fucked it up by trying to bunch it all into one big fucking game.
Yeah.
And it's like 30 hours of bullshit, and it's like, I don't want to sit here and listen to this.
Yeah, it's like, well, I reckon that's pretty good episode. That's pretty good for our opinion on recent catastrophe and dumpster fire that was Last of Us 2.
Yeah, a fucking just an all-around mess, an apocalyptic mess, yes, if you would. Which is ironic that this game came out in the middle of a fucking pandemic and it's talking about a pandemic. Yeah. And it's probably a bigger dumpster fire than the planet right now.
Probably.
Yeah. Fucking mess. Let's just get this over with. I don't want to think about this fucking game ever again in my life.
Yeah, no, same.
I prefer it to just be dead and just stay that way.
Yes. Perfect. Perfect world right there.
All right. So I guess goodbye to whatever fucking idiots decide to listen to this podcast. This shit's awful. But that was your choice, and you made a bad choice to listen to this for what? We've been here 2 hours?
God. What a loser you are, huh?
Yeah, Jesus. You're a fucking idiot, buddy. You fucking simpleton. you fucking what's the word for rat? Vermin? You're fucking vermin. You're a goddamn idiot.
Partner.
Anyways, stay around for the next episode. Fuck you. Bye.